Welcome back. The world doesn't run on fairness. It runs on unwritten laws you were never told. Tonight, we'll go through the invisible rules that shape everything around you, like the law of anchoring, the law of contrast, and plenty more that decide your life before you even realize it. So get comfortable, because this is going to be a long one. Picture a pink elephant standing in your kitchen, blinking at you from the countertop. One hoof on a cutting board, trunk curled around a spoon. Try to shift your attention to your fridge or the window, and that elephant nudges back into view. That is how your mind handles the first thing it hears. It grabs on. It anchors. And even when it is irrelevant, it keeps pulling your decisions toward it. Anchoring is the quiet gravity in everyday choices. A menu slips a sky-high price at the top, and suddenly the second most expensive dish feels reasonable. A store shows you a jacket for a ridiculous sum, and the next one down feels like a bargain, even if it is still too much. In a salary talk, the first number tossed on the table becomes the center of the conversation, shaping what feels fair. A headline frames a story as a crisis, and every fact after that gets squeezed to fit the frame. The same thing happens when someone asks for a quick estimate in a meeting. The first guess tethers the rest of the room, and people drift only a little from that starting point. It is sneaky, because the anchor does not have to be logical. Your brain wants a reference, any reference, and then it builds from there. The more tired, rushed, or uncertain you feel, the heavier that first impression gets. And because it happens so fast, it feels like common sense rather than a trick of context. So, how do you loosen the rope? First, name the anchor out loud. The moment you say, "That is just the first number," you weaken its hold. Second, create your own starting point before someone else gives you theirs. Walk into the store, the meeting, or the conversation with a prepared range. Third, change the order. Look at the middle option first. Read the source before the headline. Ask for a second opinion before you react to the first. Fourth, bring in outside benchmarks. Compare across time, across markets, across similar decisions you have made. Fifth, slow down. Anchors love hurry. A short pause, a jot of notes, even a quick walk to reset your attention can make a big difference. If you negotiate, anchor ethically. Set a clear, fair starting point and back it with reasons. If you lead a team, watch the first estimate. Invite the quiet person to go first sometimes, or collect inputs anonymously, then reveal. If you shop, decide what you value before you see the price tags. That pink elephant in your kitchen was never real, yet it coloured everything for a moment. The first image, the first number, the first story will try to do the same. Notice it, reset it, and choose your own anchor. A plain glass of water can taste like a treat after a sprint through summer heat. That is the law of contrast at work. People rarely judge in absolutes. They compare whatever is in front of them to whatever was there a moment ago. The same shirt looks sharper in a cluttered closet than it does next to a tailored blazer. The same joke lands bigger after silence than after a string of punchlines. You are not just being evaluated, you are being compared. Think about a job interview. If the person before you rambles, your clarity feels like relief. In a restaurant, a mid-priced entree suddenly seems reasonable when it sits beside a premium option. A real estate agent will often show a tired property first, so the next one feels brighter and bigger. None of those things changed in isolation. The frame changed, so the feeling changed. Use this on purpose. Curate what stands near you. If you are pitching, start by describing the bloated, old way of doing things, then offer your cleaner, simpler path. If you are negotiating, let an intentionally high but plausible anchor float out first, then present the offer you actually want. If you are sharing creative work, consider showing a messy sketch before the refined version, so improvement becomes visible instead of assumed. Mind the sequence. Go after noise with clarity. Follow complexity with a single sentence. Place your best point after a brief pause, so the silence becomes a spotlight. In a meeting, bring a printed one-page summary, so your idea sits beside something tangible, while others rely on vague promises. In style, pair a simple outfit with one striking detail rather than competing statements. In branding, remove one extra colour so the remaining hue can breathe. Also choose your neighbours. Do not stand directly beside someone whose strengths mirror your weaknesses. Instead, place yourself near complementary talent that makes your contrast an asset. If you speak after a charismatic storyteller, lean into precision and insight. If you follow a data-heavy analyst, be the person who translates the numbers into action. Beware the backfire. Contrast cuts both ways. If you promise effortless change and then deliver friction, the gap becomes a grievance. If you surround your idea with louder distractions, your message fades. Simplicity makes you seem sharper when the room is messy. It makes you seem empty when the room is rich. Calibrate your backdrop. Each decision is a frame. What they see before you and after you will colour you. So ask before every moment, what am I standing next to, and what do I want felt when I arrive? Arrange that, and you are not at the mercy of judgment. You are guiding it. A tiny, thoughtful favour can flip a hidden switch in someone's mind. Not a grand gesture, not a dramatic rescue. Something small, unexpectedly kind and easy to accept. That is the doorway to reciprocity, the quiet law that nudges people to return what they receive, even when they did not ask for it. Think about the free sample handed to you with a smile. You did not walk in planning to buy, but now your hands feel a little heavier with the weight of a gift. Or the server who drops a mint with your check and says, just for you. It is nothing, and yet it is something. The moment someone gives you a sliver of value, your brain starts balancing an invisible ledger. That tiny favour says, I see you, and your instincts whisper back, I should even this out. Here is how to use this ethically and effectively. Start with a favour that is undeniably useful, low effort, and clearly meant for them, not for you. Share a shortcut that saves them a few minutes. Introduce them to a person they have been trying to meet. Send a concise summary that makes their project easier. It must feel like a gift, not bait. Give it cleanly. No strings, no wink, no heavy hint that an ask is coming. The power is in the pause. Let the favour land and breathe. When people feel free, they lean forward. When they feel cornered, they push away. When you do make an ask, keep it proportionate. If you offered a small help, request a small step. A quick review, a short introduction, a simple yes. The more your ask fits the size and spirit of your earlier kindness, the more natural it feels to say yes. Words matter. Try this. I thought of you. When I saw this, it might save you some time. Then, after a beat, if it makes sense, would you be open to a quick chat next week? Or, no pressure at all, but if you know someone who handles this, a warm introduction would help a lot. These phrases keep the choice in their hands, which keeps the feeling of goodwill intact. Do not fake it. People can smell a manufactured favour. If the help is empty or self-serving, reciprocity reverses and trust collapses. Also, do not overgive. One genuine favour is stronger than a stack of awkward gestures. The goal is not to trap anyone. The goal is to earn a natural yes by being the kind of person others want to help. Offer something small. Leave space. Ask lightly. You will be surprised how often that invisible ledger tips your way. And when it does, remember the deeper truth of reciprocity. The fastest way to receive more is to give first. A crowded room tilts toward the person who stands like a lighthouse. Not the loudest voice, not the fanciest facts, the spine that doesn't fidget, the gaze that doesn't scramble for approval. Confidence wears an invisible crown, and people line up behind it, even when the map in their hands says a different road. This is the law of status. Humans read status the way birds read the wind. We watch posture, rhythm, tone, and the signals of scarcity. We follow the person who seems least rushed, most certain, and least needy. Truth should lead us, but presentation often does. Think about a meeting where two people pitch the same idea. One arrives breathless with slides and disclaimers. The other arrives calm, closes the laptop and says, "Here's what matters." The second person sounds like the destination, not the detour. Or picture a restaurant with velvet ropes. The line grows not because the food is better, but because the wait suggests it might be. Status cues bend reality. You can use this without faking who you are. Start with stillness. Stillness reads as control. Move slower than the room. Pause a heartbeat longer than your nerves want. Let silence become your punctuation. End sentences with a downward tone so they land like a period, not a question mark. Claim a frame early. Set what this conversation is about and what it is not. People adopt the first clear frame they hear. Speak in terms of stakes and direction, not details and apologies. If someone challenges you, don't sprint into defense. Acknowledge, reframe, and guide. Status flows to the person who doesn't need to win every inch. Guard your time. Be slightly less available. When you give attention, give it fully. When you withdraw, do it cleanly. Boundaries suggest you have places to be and a mission to serve. Status is not loud, it is costly. Dress like you thought about it once and then forgot. Simple, clean, intentional. Let fit, texture, and contrast do the work. Your appearance is your opening sentence before your mouth opens. People decide whether to listen in the first few heartbeats. Borrow context when you need it. A strong introduction loans you status. Stand near credible people. Choose the seat with a view of the room. Small environmental choices speak before you do. Here's the warning label. Status without substance is a glass sword. It looks sharp until the first real fight. Do the work. Know your craft. Use status cues to make your truth easier to hear, not to bury it. Try a simple experiment today. Speak slower. Hold eye contact a beat longer. Cut one apology. You will feel the room tilt, not because you bullied it, but because you stood like a lighthouse. Your brain is an overprotective bodyguard, and it hates losing more than it loves winning. That is the law of loss aversion. Losing something feels about twice as painful as winning. The same thing feels good. It is why a small setback can wreck your mood, while a small win barely moves the needle. Picture a coin flip. Win, you get $20. Lose, you pay $20. The math is even, but it does not feel even. Most people walk away because the pain of a potential loss shouts louder than the promise of a gain. That same bias sneaks into everyday choices. You keep the subscription you hardly use because cancelling feels like admitting a loss. You cling to a project that is going nowhere because you already invested time. You pass on a new opportunity because the possible stumble feels heavier than the possible step up. Marketers know this and speak to it. Free trials, money-back guarantees, and limited-time offers turn action into avoiding a loss. Even in negotiations, the words "what you stand to lose" pull harder than "what you could gain." None of this is evil by itself. It simply speaks the language your brain is already listening for. So how do you take back the steering wheel? Start by naming the hidden trade. When you say yes to something safe, you are saying no to something that might grow you. Speak it out loud. If I keep this, I lose that. Next, pre-price your losses. Create a small, explicit tuition fund for experiments. When a trial does not work, you did not fail. You spent from your learning budget on purpose. Flip the frame. Ask what you lose by not acting. If you delay a habit for 1 month, what do you forfeit in energy, health, or opportunities? Shrink the risk until it is bite-sized. Pilot the idea for 2 weeks. Call one prospect. Publish one rough draft. When the stakes are small, the bodyguard relaxes. Balance the scale with bright, immediate wins. After an uncomfortable leap, mark the scoreboard right away. Note what you learned, who you met, or which fear got quieter. Your brain tallies points. Make sure it sees them. Then run a quick pre-mortem. If this goes wrong, how would I recover? Most imagined disasters unwind with a few phone calls, a week of regrouping, and a lesson you can reuse. Finally, set a decision deadline. Loss aversion loves endless maybe. Give yourself until Friday to choose, gather only the key facts, and move. Progress compounds when you stop letting the fear of losing today steal the chance to win tomorrow. You will still feel the sting of losses. Let that protect you from reckless bets, not from worthy ones. Treat small losses as tuition and buy your way into the future you actually want. A locked door is rarely just metal and hinges. It is a person with a job, a mandate, and a memory of what happens when the wrong stranger gets in. That is the Law of Gatekeepers. A small circle decides whose knock becomes a welcome. Here is the shift that turns friction into flow. Gatekeepers are not obstacles, they are filters. Treat the filter as a partner, and the door changes shape. Think about the assistant who guards a packed calendar. You send a long pitch, a dozen attachments, and a bold subject line. Silence. Try this instead. You open with respect for their task. You give a short, plain summary of the value in 2 sentences. You borrow a sliver of credibility, not a full bio. You ask for a tiny, reversible next step, a 5-minute call, a quick skim, a yes to an introduction. You make declining effortless and graceful. Suddenly, you are not adding to their risk. You are helping them do their job. Psychologically, this approach lowers perceived threat and raises autonomy. People say yes more often when a request is specific, time-bound, and easy to reverse. It taps social proof without peacocking and offers clear off-ramps, which reduces pressure and defensiveness. Another scene. You want your work featured. Instead of blasting a cold link, you read the curator's past choices. You echo their taste in the way you frame your piece. You propose a fit, not a favour. I noticed you highlight concise, practical tools. Here is one line on what this tool does, and here is where it complements what you already feature. You are signalling alignment. You are saving them curation time. You are handing them something that makes them look good to their audience and their own boss. Gatekeepers guard 3 kinds of doors. There is the front door everyone sees with forms and cues. There is the side door of introductions, where trust transfers hand to hand. And there is the worker's key door, where undeniable proof opens what politeness cannot. You do not have to choose one. You braid them. You submit properly. You earn and request introductions with care. You publish useful work in public, so the door starts looking for you. A few quiet rules help. Speak in their language, not yours. Make the first ask small and the second ask inevitable. Give before you need, so by the time you ask, it feels like finishing a conversation, not starting a transaction. Follow the shape of what they already say yes to, then add a small new angle, so saying yes feels both safe and fresh. The hidden win of gatekeepers is that they teach you to earn trust at scale. Learn how they decide, and you will learn how everyone decides. The door is still locked, but your posture toward it is different. No banging, no bluffing. Just alignment, proof, and respect. One key opens many rooms. Then, when you are the one standing by the handle, remember how you got here, and leave it a little easier for the next person to walk through. The room was nodding before the idea had a chance to breathe. You know that rhythm? One person speaks with certainty. Another adds a quick, absolutely, and suddenly silence feels riskier than agreement. That's the quiet pull of a hidden law. People would rather be wrong together than right alone. Here's the trap. Being the lone dissenter feels like stepping out from the herd into open field. The group offers a warm blanket of belonging. Accuracy offers a cold bench by the door. Psychologically, the promise of fitting in often beats the promise of being correct, because belonging feels like safety. When people feel safe, they lower their defenses and move with the group, even when something feels off inside. So name the law before it names your decision. Say it out loud. We are susceptible to nodding our way into a mistake. Then practice an easy counter move. Build a small path for dissent. You can say, before we vote, what would make the opposite true? You can ask everyone to write a brief prediction privately, then discuss. When ideas exist on paper, before a dominant voice speaks, the group becomes more thoughtful and less performative. Picture a product meeting. The timeline is tight. The bold plan sounds impressive. You feel a prickle. This launch date ignores testing. The law whispers, go with it. But you pause and say, if this goes sideways, what will we wish we'd asked right now? That single question opens a crack. Someone admits a dependency is fragile. Another points out the support team is short-staffed that week. Together you add a buffer and save a future apology tour. The difference wasn't brilliance, it was permission to disagree safely. Groupthink shows up at dinner with friends too. Everyone says, anywhere is fine, and you wind up at a place no one actually likes. Try this. One person volunteers a real preference, and another plays designated contrarian just for a minute. What's the downside? Any better fit? Even a tiny ritual like that breaks the spell without breaking the mood. Remember, the goal is not to be the loudest critic. The goal is to make it normal to surface the risk early, so the group can be right together. Praise the person who raises a thoughtful objection. Go last if you have power. Ask for % confidence. And one biggest risk, not a speech. These moves create a culture where people feel seen, which opens better conversation and smarter choices. The law of groupthink will always tug. But when you build small moments of safety for dissent, you trade easy harmony for honest clarity. You keep the belonging and you upgrade the outcome. That's how you stop being wrong together and start being brave together. A violin sings in a crowded station and almost no one stops. The same musician steps onto a velvet stage under warm lights and every seat is taken. The notes did not change. The stage did. That is the law of perception. It matters less how valuable you are and more how valuable you look. We like to think people will dig for our gold. They will not. They notice the frame before they study the picture. The brain is fast and lazy. In a breath or two, it decides whether to lean in or look away. Packaging, environment, words, and presence all whisper to that first decision-making moment. Signal precedes substance. Think about coffee in a plain paper cup versus the same brew in a heavy porcelain mug with a saucer. One feels like a treat, the other like a refill. Or consider a resume. Two candidates with equal talent, yet the one with crisp design, a clear headline, and a confident opening line gets the call. Even ideas wear suits. If they show up wrinkled, they do not get in the room. This is not about faking. It is about alignment. Your outside should introduce your inside at its best. Start with your frame. What does someone see in the first few heartbeats? Your face, your posture, your tone. Meet the room with lifted eyes, still shoulders, and a measured pace. Calm signals competence. Then your words. Begin with a clean promise. One sentence anyone can repeat. Remove clutter. Clarity is luxury. Next, your environment. The backdrop tells a story before you speak. Light your face. Tidy the edges. Choose colours that match your message. Warm for warmth. Cool for logic. Quiet signals focus. Noise signals scramble. Then, your proof. Show not just that you can, but that others say you can. Names, logos, testimonials, results. Borrowed credibility is a bridge people gladly walk. Dress your offer. Name it with specificity. Give it shape, steps, and a beginning and an end. Vague is invisible. Concrete is memorable. Speak in pictures. Instead of saying you are reliable, say you deliver when the city sleeps. Instead of saying high quality, show the stitch, the grain, the detail that cannot be faked. Perception compounds. Every touch point either sharpens or blurs the signal. The email subject line, the first slide, the handshake, the scent of the space, the way your product rests in a hand. When these align, even silence sells. When they clash, even shouting fails. Do the work to be valuable, then do the work to look like it. Step onto a stage you build on purpose, not by accident. When the frame is right, the world finally sees the picture you have painted all along. The velvet rope isn't about style, it's a magnet. The moment we see a line, a velvet cord, or a sign that whispers almost gone, our attention snaps to it, like someone just turned up the contrast on the world. That tug has a name: scarcity. We want things more when they're rare, hard to get, or off limits. Not because we're shallow, but because our brains treat limited access as a signal of value. Psychologically, scarcity flips a switch. When freedom feels tightened, desire intensifies, and the clock in our head starts ticking louder. Here's what it looks like in real life. You're eyeing a shelf of cookies at a local bakery you pass by all week. Then today, a tiny handwritten card appears, last batch for the day. Suddenly you care. The person next to you whispers, "Should we grab two?" And now you're moving, because the door to later just closed. The same thing happens in conversations. A friend who replies instantly is easy to ignore. The one who checks messages in a small window each afternoon feels mysteriously important. Even your own time works like this. If you say, "I can chat any time," people drift. If you say, "I have a small window right after lunch," they show up on the dot. There's a catch. Scarcity can be used to manipulate, and that's how people lose trust. The better move is honest constraint. Make the boundary true and make the promise clear. Limited seats because you can only coach a few people well. a finite enrollment window because you want a real cohort to grow together. Office hours, because focused energy beats scattered availability. Not fake scarcity. Real scarcity that protects quality, attention, and care. If you're building something, consider trimming the always-on access that quietly drains it. Fewer launches, but each one crafted. Fewer yeses, but each one wholehearted. It's not about being aloof. It's about being specific. Not just less, but better. Our minds notice what's rare. Our hearts value what's protected. And when something cannot be had at every moment, the moments we do get feel meaningful. Try it in small ways. Name your window. Set a cap. Put a natural end point on the opportunity and let it close without apology. Watch how the energy changes. People lean in. They decide faster. They show up ready. Psychologically, it works because boundaries create clarity, and clarity creates commitment. In a world where everything screams now, let a few things whisper, not always. You'll feel the focus sharpen. Others will feel the value rise. And you'll discover that what's rare doesn't just get noticed, it gets respected. That's the quiet power of scarcity used wisely. A stranger bolts through a quiet train station, and without thinking, a few others quicken their pace. A small stampede forms out of thin air. No siren, no announcement. Just one person moving with urgency and dozens echoing that cue. That's the pull of imitation. It's a hidden law. We copy long before we consider. Call it a survival shortcut. Your brain saves energy by watching what others do and assuming they know something you don't. If the group looks left, you glance left. If a line forms outside a mediocre cafe, it suddenly looks worth your time. The cue is simple. Many people, one behavior. Your mind translates that to safety, status, belonging. But here's the trap. We copy even when it makes no sense. You've seen it at work. Someone suggests a familiar strategy in a meeting, and heads nod before anyone asks if it still fits the moment. You felt it online. A post gathers likes, so you like it too. Not because it moved you, but because it already looks approved. Imitation is automatic, and the cost is invisible. We outsource choices we should own. The shift is not to stop copying. The shift is to copy on purpose. Imitation is a tool. Use it with your hand on the handle. Instead of mirroring outcomes, mirror the process behind them. Don't copy the cafe's line. Copy the reason people lined up. Was it scarcity, design, timing, reputation? When you know the reason, you choose, not drift. Here's what it looks like in real life. A friend raves about a new productivity app, and your group downloads it overnight. Pause before you press install. Ask your friend what problem it solved for them. Maybe they needed reminders for deep focus blocks, but you struggle with priorities, not focus. If you imitate their outcome, you'll add noise. If you imitate their process, define the problem, then pick the tool, you'll add clarity. Same social cue, smarter response. Psychologically, this small pause breaks the reflex. Imitation thrives on speed and ambiguity. When you slow down and make the reason explicit, you reclaim attention. You don't need to argue with the crowd. You only need to test one small move that is yours. Try the app for 1 week with one clear objective. Keep what works, drop what doesn't. That's still imitation, but now it serves you. You'll notice the world differently. Crowds stop being compasses and start becoming data sets. Trends become labs. Recommendations become hypotheses. You can borrow models, mentors, and methods without borrowing their blind spots. Let most people copy the noise, copy the signal, Copy the questions they asked, the constraints they respected, the practice they sustained, then decide. The law of imitation isn't here to control you. Used well, it can carry you straight past the herd into choices that actually fit your life. A funny thing happens when a stranger becomes a regular. The first time, they barely register. The second time, you notice. The third time, you relax a little. By the fifth or sixth time, you're rooting for them without quite knowing why. That's the law of familiarity. The more familiar you seem, the more people start to like and trust you. It isn't about manipulation or putting on a mask. It's about rhythm. Psychologically, our brains warm up to what they recognize. Repetition lowers defenses and creates a sense of safety we can feel in our bodies. Think about the barista who doesn't just get your order right, but greets you the same way every morning. Same easy smile, same small comment about the weather. Not robotic, reliable. After a week, it feels odd when they're not there. Or picture the co-worker who opens every meeting with a quick check-in, asks one clear question, and closes by naming the next step. Over time, that person becomes the steady hand in a noisy room. You start trusting their voice before they even finish a sentence. Familiarity works in tiny signals. The neighbour who waves every evening, the friend who texts back within a reasonable window, the mentor who always circles back after a tough conversation. The content of what they do can change, but the pattern stays. Your brain tags them as safe, known, dependable. So how do you use this without turning into a loop? Show up with consistency, not sameness. Keep a few anchors. Your tone, your values, a recurring phrase that feels like you, but let your stories evolve. If you're building a presence, let people recognize your color palette, your sign-off, your way of explaining things while you keep the ideas fresh. In person, it's as simple as remembering names, mirroring the pace of the room, and giving the same honest follow-through you gave yesterday. There's a quiet power in being findable. Not loud, not everywhere, just reliably where you said you'd be. Over time, that predictability becomes permission. People speak more freely around you, take your suggestions more seriously, and assume good intent when misunderstandings happen. When you're familiar, you get the benefit of the doubt. This isn't about becoming bland, it's about becoming trusted. The artistry is in repeating the right cues while staying alive to the moment in front of you. Let your consistency be the frame that makes new moments easier to enter and easier to remember. One day you look up and realize doors are opening that used to be walls, not because you shouted, but because you stayed. The law of familiarity turns presence into trust and trust into possibility. Return to the places that matter, repeat the signals that make you real, and let people learn you one small moment at a time. That is how familiarity becomes connection. If life were a board game, the rule book would arrive late and missing pages. Some players would start with extra turns, others would be told to wait and smile while everyone else moves ahead. That's the law of unfairness, the quiet reality that rules bend for certain people and harden for others, not always because of malice, but because discretion lives between every line of policy. You've seen it. A student without a hall pass gets sent back, while the star of the team gets a nod and a grin. A co-worker slides in a few minutes late and is called dedicated but overloaded, while someone else is labelled unreliable. At a hotel desk, an upgrade appears like magic for the charming traveller, while the polite, tired family is told the system is locked. The rules did not change. The people interpreting them did. There are reasons, and you can use them. First, rules are enforced by humans, and humans respond to stories, status, risk, and reciprocity. If bending a rule feels safe, beneficial, or reputationally smart. It happens. If it feels risky, costly, or likely to be questioned, the rule calcifies. The difference is rarely written, it is felt. Second, context outranks content. The same request, wrapped in different context, becomes a different decision. I need an exception is rigid. Here's the smallest exception that solves your problem, and mine is flexible. Gatekeepers are trained to say no to vagueness and yes to clarity. Give them an angle that reduces risk, time, and conflict. Third, leverage isn't only fame or money. It is being known, being useful, being recommended, being the person who follows through. People bend rules for those who carry receipts of value. If there's a record that you help, show up, and make problems smaller, doors open quietly. So how do you move inside the law of unfairness without becoming bitter or manipulative? You read the room before you read the rule. You figure out who has discretion and what they worry about. You lead with proof that you understand their constraints. Then you ask for less than you want and make it easy to say yes. You bring social proof, a reference, a brief track record. You frame your request as risk reduction. I will not make you look bad. You stay kind, steady, and brief. When it matters, you get expectations in writing. When a door stays shut, you remember your options: escalate, reroute, or walk. The law of unfairness is not fair, but it is predictable. If you accept that interpretation is as real as policy, you can stop waiting for the rule book to fix your path. You learn to carry your own missing pages, and you quietly become the kind of person people make exceptions for. Power in love hides in the pauses, the breath between a delivered text and the choice to reply. That small space reveals who holds the frame, who leads the dance, who shapes the tempo. The quiet truth most people learn the hard way is simple. The person who can walk away with the calmest heart sets the terms. This is not about being cold, it is about being centered. Caring less does not mean caring never. It means you place your self-respect above the outcome. When your happiness depends on one person's validation, you hand them the reins. When your sense of worth is rooted in your values and your life, you stop chasing and start choosing. That shift is the law of power. You can feel it in tiny moments. One person rearranges their day at the slightest ping. The other keeps their plans and replies when they are actually available. One person over-explains, apologizes for existing, fills silence because silence feels dangerous. The other lets silence do its work. One person bargains for attention. The other measures by effort, not excuses. Power collects around the person who needs less to stay. The trap is mistaking detachment for games. Games pretend. Detachment decides. It says, here are my standards, here is my pace. Here is what respect looks like for me. It does not punish with silence. It simply does not reward disrespect with access. It does not beg. It invites. It does not cling. It allows. That is the difference between manipulation and self-possession. Build it in small, steady ways. Answer at the speed of your real life, not at the speed of fear. Keep your routines, your sleep, your workouts, your friends. If a message stings, breathe, then respond after your nervous system settles. When someone shows inconsistency, do not chase clarity. Mirror their investment and place your energy where it returns. When a boundary is crossed, state it once, calmly, and then let your actions teach what your words already said. You will notice something subtle. The moment you no longer audition, people audition for you. The moment you stop proving your value becomes obvious. Some will lean in, some will drift out. Both outcomes are gifts, because both reveal truth without a fight. Healthy love is not a contest of indifference. It is two whole people meeting in the middle. But you can only meet in the middle if you are standing firmly on your side. That is the law of power in relationships. Hold your center, prize your peace, and be willing to walk. The one who fears losing less is free to love more. The most expensive word in your life might be yes. It looks polite, sounds ambitious, and feels generous, but there is a silent receipt attached. The law of opportunity cost says every yes is also a no to something else you could have done. You never get a decision for free. You only choose which price to pay. Say yes to a meeting, and you say no to the workout that would have cleared your head. Say yes to another episode, and you say no to the sleep that makes tomorrow easier. Say yes to scrolling, and you say no to the book that would have sharpened your thinking. Money has price tags, but time, attention, and energy hide theirs in invisible ink. Most people sense this law, but pretend it is not there. That is why calendars overflow while meaningful work starves. That is why inboxes feel urgent and dreams feel distant. You are not lazy. You are paying for yes with what matters most, and realizing it only after the bill arrives. A friend once said yes to every coffee chat, every side request, every quick favor. They were loved by everyone and led by everything. Weeks flew by. Then a chance appeared to lead a major project. No time, no space, no energy left. The opportunity did not pass them by. It was crowded out. Another friend started saying no to almost everything that was not aligned with one clear yes. Build a portfolio that proves value. Fewer lunches, fewer notifications, fewer random tasks. Within a few months, doors opened that had never been knocked on. You do not have to become the person who never helps or never explores. You simply name the trade before you pay it. When someone asks for your time, pause and ask, what am I saying no to if I say yes here? Picture the alternative in colour. Is the trade worth it? If the answer is not a strong yes, it is a gentle no or a not now. Treat your calendar like a budget. Schedule your primary yes first. Deep work, health, learning, relationships. Protect a few sacred blocks each week, as if they were meetings with someone you cannot afford to disappoint, because they are. Use a one-in, one-out rule for commitments. If a new yes enters, an old yes exits. Make someday a folder, not a promise. Park good ideas there so they stop stealing today. No is not rejection. It is respect for the right yes. The law of opportunity cost never stops collecting. Either you choose what you will pay, or the world will choose for you. Decide your yes on purpose, and the right doors open while the wrong ones quietly close. Momentum is a quiet law. You feel it on the days you move and on the days you don't. The truth is simple. Relationships and careers are either growing or fading. They rarely sit politely at neutral. That's the law of momentum. Not about sudden leaps, but about tiny nudges that add up and pull you forward. Think about the last time you meant to text someone back. You liked them. You had a good time. You said we should catch up soon. Became later. Later became never. Momentum didn't wait. It drifted in the direction of silence. Now picture a softer version. You send one line, just thinking of you. How's your week? Momentum shifts, a small push, and the connection warms again. It wasn't grand, it was consistent. The same thing happens at work. You don't need a perfect plan. You need the smallest step that keeps you moving. Open the draft for 5 minutes. Ask one clear question in the meeting. Ship one messy version today and a cleaner one tomorrow. Psychologically, small wins create energy, they reduce friction, they tell your brain, we are the kind of person who shows up. Progress invites more progress. Here's a reframe we forget. We wait to feel motivated before we start. In reality, we start, and that is what creates motivation. It's not motivation, then motion. It's motion, then motivation. That single switch changes everything. When you act even a little, you cast a vote for the future you want. Momentum also repairs strain in relationships. After a tense exchange, the easiest move is distance, but the law is still working. Distance gathers more distance. Instead, try a simple repair. I care about this. Can we try again? That small move lowers defenses and moves the dynamic from opposition to cooperation. It's not about winning the point, it's about restoring the path. Psychologically, feeling heard and approached in good faith opens the door to progress and trust. So, how do you use this law? Choose the smallest push. You can't refuse. 2 sentences in the draft. 1, honest compliment. 1, phone call, a 5-minute walk. 3, deep breaths before you speak, tiny but repeatable. You're not proving a point. You're feeding a direction, and you'll notice something subtle. The more often you push, the lighter the push feels. Momentum begins to carry you. In the end, there is no standing still. There is only direction. A relationship drifts closer or further. A career grows roots or erodes under hesitation. Name your direction and give it one small nudge today. Let the closing lines be simple. Keep it moving. Keep it kind. Keep it consistent, because the law of momentum isn't loud, it's steady, and it decides where you end up tomorrow by what you repeat today. Reputations rise on invisible threads, and those threads are stories. You can walk into a room with perfect credentials, perfect posture, and still be forgettable. Yet, someone with fewer achievements opens their mouth, paints a picture, and suddenly they are the gravity in the room. That is the law of storytelling. People don't fall for the person as much as they fall for the story they tell. Think about 2 founders meeting an investor. One recites features, charts, and jargon. The other opens with a moment, a night nurse juggling alarms, coffee, and chaos, and how a tiny alert on her screen sounded like mercy. The second founder is not selling software. They are selling salvation from a feeling. Which pitch do you remember on the drive home? Or a job interview? One candidate lists roles and results, tidy and efficient. The other says, I once took over a project everyone had quietly given up on. The code was a maze. The deadline was a rumor. The team was tired. So I made a map, found a quick win to breathe life into the room, and we shipped a week early. Suddenly, you do not just know what they did. You feel who they are under pressure. This is how the law works. Facts anchor, but stories transport. Credentials impress, but stories invite. Someone hearing you wants 3 things without ever asking. Who are you really? What do you want? And what do you do when it gets hard? A story answers all 3 without sounding like a lecture. Build yours simply. There is a person, there is a desire, there is an obstacle, and there is a change. Name the person. Name the desire so we can root for it. Put the obstacle on the table so we can measure the odds. Show the change so we can feel the meaning. If you need a doorway line, try this. When I faced this, I chose that. And here is what changed. That sentence is a bridge from stranger to someone we care about. Let your villain be the problem, not another person. Let your stakes be human, not just numbers. Make the scene tangible. The mind remembers chills, smells, small details. A flickering hallway light says more than a paragraph of adjectives. A pause on the right word can carry more weight than a loud paragraph. If you are tempted to hard sell, resist. Tell the truth, but tell it with edges. Your listener is looking for a mirror, not a mountain. Offer them a path they can walk with you, step by step. The law of storytelling rewards clarity, courage, and a clean arc. Rewrite your introduction so it lives. Tell the tiny moment that changed your direction. Carry that thread into every room. Let people fall for the story, and they will follow the person telling it. A loose thread never stops whispering, "Pull me." That feeling is the law of curiosity at work. When something begins but does not finish, your mind leans forward, searching for the missing piece. It is the magnet inside the gap. You can feel it in a song that pauses before the final note, in a story that refuses to tell you the secret, even in a sentence that refuses to end. Your attention is not captured by noise. It is captured by incompleteness. Think about a friend who says, "I just heard something about you," and then checks their phone. You are not choosing to care. You are caught. Your brain opens a loop and will not close it until an answer slides into place. That is why the last line of a chapter pulls you to the next. Why a mystery box sits untouched for days and still owns your thoughts. Why a single missing puzzle piece somehow matters more than the hundreds already on the table. The unfinished part becomes the loudest part. The law of curiosity is not just a trick used by storytellers, it is how we move through the world. Progress happens because a question grabs us by the collar. Why did they do that? What goes here? How does this work? A good teacher leaves a space in the lesson that you want to fill. A great conversation leaves an opening you cannot resist stepping into. The gap becomes a bridge. If you want attention, create a clean, honest gap. Start with something vivid but incomplete, then resist the quick payoff. Plant a specific image, a chef holding a burned letter over a stove, a runner stopping one step from the finish line, a box on a doorstep with your name written in blue ink. Do not explain yet. Let the audience ask the first question in their own mind, then guide them clue by clue toward the answer. Every small reveal should resolve one question and open a slightly bigger one, like stepping stones across water. The dance is closure and new tension, closure and new tension, until the final step lands on solid ground. But here is the mistake most people make. They never deliver. Curiosity without closure becomes frustration. The promise must pay. When you finally reveal the burned letter was a recipe from a grandmother, or the runner stopped to help a fallen stranger, the payoff snaps the loop shut. Satisfaction is what makes the next open loop feel safe to follow. It builds trust. Try this today. Start a message with a scene, not a summary. Share a result, then rewind to the cause. Ask the tiniest true question that your audience already cares about. Make the gap irresistible, then close it with clarity and meaning. Leave one small door ajar for tomorrow. The mind will remember where it wants to return. A tiny checkbox you never noticed might be steering your day. Your phone arrives with notifications on, so the first thing you hear each morning is not your own thoughts, it is someone else's urgency. A free trial starts with auto-renew, so months later you are paying for something you forgot you had. New software sets the theme, the layout, the alerts, and without arguing, you live inside its choices. That is the law of defaults. The option chosen for you by default is the one you will usually keep. Not because you lack willpower, but because doing nothing is easier than changing something, especially when the current setting kind of works. The pre-selected path feels safe, familiar, and fast. Here is what it looks like up close. A coworker adds you to a group chat. The default is notifications on for every message. Ping, ping, ping. You think, I should mute this. But you are in the middle of something and then the day gets away from you. By evening, you have trained your attention to answer everyone else first. Tomorrow repeats. This is not a moral failure. It is a design pulling on habit. Psychologically, defaults become the path of least resistance, reducing decision effort and making the pre-selected option feel like the normal one worth keeping. When something is already set, inertia and the tiny cost of changing it keep us there, even if a small tweak would serve us better. So how do you use this law instead of being used by it? Not by forcing yourself to fight every choice all day, but by changing the starting line. Not more discipline, smarter defaults. Shift what happens automatically, so your best behavior requires fewer clicks, fewer steps, fewer negotiations with yourself. Picture a morning where your phone wakes on silent, and your first default is a glass of water on your desk, already poured. Your calendar opens to deep work by default, and meetings must be switched on manually. Your streaming app opens to a short course you want to finish, not a carousel of endless shows. Your pantry puts the snacks behind the staples, so reaching for what you actually want is the easy move, not the heroic one. You did not become a new person overnight. You became the person your settings expect. In real life, this can be as simple as telling a friend, I am muting this thread for a while, text me if it is urgent, or setting email to deliver in batches so that the default is focus, not reaction. One small change in what happens by default rewires what happens by habit. If you do nothing, the default chooses you. Choose your defaults, and you quietly choose your days. A conversation can turn in the span of a glance. You feel it when someone's eyes meet yours and stay there just long enough for your shoulders to drop and your guard to loosen. That tiny window writes the first draft of trust. Not the words, not the handshake, the way their eyes say, I'm here with you. Call it the law of eye contact. In the first few seconds, people decide whether you're safe, sincere, and worth listening to. The trick is presence, not performance. Rooted in psychology and human behavior, the goal is to send a simple signal. You matter right now. Here is what it looks like in real life. You sit down with a new client. Before the small talk, you anchor your attention. You meet their gaze with a warm, steady focus. Soft around the edges, not a stare down. You let a breath land. You add a tiny nod that says, keep going. When they speak, your eyes don't dart to the door or the phone. You hold, then break naturally when you think, returning as they finish. Seconds in, they relax, their voice slows. They tell you what they actually need instead of what they're supposed to say. Or picture this with a friend who's overwhelmed. When they start, you don't rush in with advice. You keep a gentle gaze, let them empty the first wave, and mirror back the feeling you hear. That eye contact tells them you're not just waiting to reply, you're actually with them. When someone feels seen and understood, they're more open to conversation, feedback, and connection. A few simple cues make this work. Begin with warm eyes before strong words. You are setting tone, not testing wills. Aim for steady, not constant. Brief glances away when you gather a thought can show you're processing, not disengaging. Pair your gaze with listening movements. Soft nods, subtle eyebrows, a half smile when it fits. Match intensity to context. A teammate sharing bad news needs softer contact than a pitch meeting. And when the moment turns vulnerable, don't flinch. Holding that gaze a beat longer says, I can handle your truth. The reframe is important. Eye contact is not dominance. It is permission, not pressure, presence. You are not trying to win a stare, you're offering safety. Psychologically, that sense of safety lowers defenses and invites honesty. If you remember only one thing, make it this. The first few seconds of eye contact are a bridge. Cross it with warmth and steadiness, and people will meet you in the middle. Trust starts quietly. It starts with eyes that are not just looking, but truly seeing. Ladders in real life are built from conversations, not rungs. You can be brilliant on paper and still watch opportunities walk past you toward the person people already trust. That is not unfair as much as it is human. We choose the known when the stakes feel high. The law of networking is simple. When people decide, they do not scan every possible option. They reach for a name that feels safe. Safe means familiar. Familiar means present. Presence comes from small, steady signals long before the moment you need the door to open. Picture two candidates. One has the perfect resume, spotless credentials, and a portfolio that sparkles. The other is slightly less polished, but has shown up to community meetups, asked thoughtful questions on calls, shared a useful template with a hiring manager months ago, and checked in without asking for anything. When the team needs someone now, they pick the person they already know delivers. Risk drops. Momentum rises. This is not about being fake or loud. It is about being visible and valuable. Start before you are ready. Get in the rooms where your future peers gather. Offer to help with the unglamorous work that makes the room run. Ask better questions than you give opinions. Follow up the same day with a short thank you and one clear takeaway. Keep promises, especially the small ones. Reliability is a referral engine. Make it easy to talk about you. Craft a simple sentence that says who you help and how. Keep it specific enough to stick. Share work in progress so people see your process, not just your highlights. When someone opens a door for you, walk through it and report back on what you did. That feedback loop builds trust faster than any pitch. Treat introductions like gifts. Protect the giver's trust by showing up prepared and on time. Do your homework so the first 5 minutes are about them, not you. Bring something useful to the table, even if it is as small as a concise brief, a relevant article, or a connection they did not know they needed. Give twice before you ask once. Plant seeds every week. Reach out to one person you admire with a specific note. Host a tiny coffee with 2 people who should meet each other. Share a practical insight with your circle. None of this is flashy. All of it compounds. You do not have to be the loudest person. You do have to be the person people remember when a problem appears. Do excellent work and also make it discoverable. Be consistent. Be kind. Be helpful and be there before the ask. Jobs and opportunities flow through trust, and trust flows through people. Honor that current, and it will carry you farther than any resume ever will. Quiet habits decide loud destinies. The smallest thing you repeat becomes the biggest thing about you. That is the law of compounding. Tiny inputs, stacked with time, turn into outcomes so large they look like magic until you trace them back to their humble beginnings. Money taught us this first. A little interest, added again and again, builds into something that dwarfs the original. But the secret most people miss is that everything compounds. Skills compound, confidence compounds, energy compounds. So do mistakes, excuses, and distractions. Every day, a vote is cast. One more page read is not just a page, it is momentum. One skipped workout is not just a miss, it is friction. The curve bends in the direction of what you feed. Think about a single minute. 1 minute of deep breath before a meeting steadies your voice, which shapes the room, which opens a door you did not expect. 1 sentence written each morning births a paragraph by the week, a chapter by the season, a book before you realize it. 1 honest conversation with yourself at night nudges the next morning into alignment. The smallest repeatable unit, returned to daily, compounds into an identity. Here is the quiet strategy. Choose a floor so low you cannot trip over it. Read 1 paragraph. Do 1 push-up. Save $1. Make the task too small to argue with, then protect it like a promise. When life gets loud, you still clear the floor. When life gets easy, you raise the ceiling. The power is not the size, it is the streak. Design for automatic wins. Tie the action to an anchor you already do. After you brush your teeth, stretch for 1 minute. After you brew coffee, write 1 sentence. After you shut the laptop, lay out your shoes. The brain loves patterns. Give it a doorway it recognizes, and your effort drops while your consistency rises. Guard against negative compounders. A little gossip becomes a habit of resentment. A little scrolling becomes a fog of hours. Ask, what is this tiny choice buying me over a year? What story will it tell when it grows up? Redirect early. Course corrections are cheap when they are small. And when you stumble, never miss twice. Missing once is a blip. Missing twice is a new trend. Reset to your floor, cash the atomic win, and let the compounding resume. You are not chasing intensity. You are courting inevitability. The law is simple. Start small, go steady, let time do the heavy lifting. Today's inch becomes tomorrow's mile. Today's whisper becomes tomorrow's roar. Keep the input tiny, keep the promise daily, and watch the quiet math turn ordinary days into extraordinary outcomes. You didn't choose your first passport, it chose you. A few coordinates on a delivery room form decided your language, your laws, your holidays, the food on your table, and the stories people tell about what a good life looks like. That's the birth lottery. It is not a myth or a moral judgment. It is the quiet machinery beneath almost everything we call luck. Where you're born is a map that arrives before your first breath. Some maps come with paved roads, clean water, libraries and hospitals 10 minutes away. Others begin with long walks to fetch water, classrooms that double as shelters, and sirens that sound more often than school bells. In one place, a broken bone is a bill. In another, it is a brief inconvenience. In one place, an accent unlocks a job. In another, it bars the door. When you're born is a calendar stamped into your chances. Someone born in 1990 learned the internet as it grew. Someone born in 2008 met it as a finished city with rules written by strangers. A child entering the workforce during a boom feels pulled by an invisible escalator. The same child arriving in a recession feels a treadmill under their feet. Even the month matters. The oldest kid in the class is praised for being mature, then chosen for teams, then given more practice, and the gap becomes a story about talent. None of this means your path is fixed. It means your starting hand wasn't shuffled by you. Skill is how you play. Luck is the cards. Most people confuse speed for skill when the ground is sloped. The slope is the law. It is the subsidy you never saw, the tax you never voted on, the wind at your back or in your face. So what do you do with a law you cannot repeal? First, name it. Humility grows where credit used to crowd. Gratitude becomes sharper. You stop telling yourself you did it alone, and you stop telling others to just try harder. Second, widen the luck surface area of the people around you. Share maps. Mentor. Open doors, not only for the people who look like you or speak like you, but for the ones whose roads were never paved. Third, design micro-lotteries you can influence. Choose communities that compound your effort. Choose habits that make tomorrow kinder than today. Choose a calendar that protects deep work and deep rest. The goal is not guilt, it is stewardship. If you were born with an escalator, send it back down. If you were born on a treadmill, find others and build a ramp. The law of the birth lottery does not vanish when you ignore it, but when you see it, you start to bend it. And bending it is how strangers become neighbours, how luck turns into opportunity, and how the place you are from becomes the place you help build. A single word can handcuff your future. Dangerous, flaky, genius. Once it lands on you, people stop seeing you and start seeing the label. They do not watch your actions. They search for evidence that their word was right all along. That is the law of reputation. The label becomes the lens. Think about the friend everyone calls late. You show up on time 9 days straight and nobody notices. You are late once and the room sighs, of course. Now flip it. Someone tagged as brilliant tosses out a half idea and it is treated like prophecy. Same behaviour, different judgments, because the label does the heavy lifting. You cannot control what they whisper, but you can feed the lens. Choose a simple promise you can keep every day. Not a grand speech, a small, repeatable signal. The colleague known for chaos starts sending a short, clear agenda before every meeting. 2 lines, every time. In a month, people stop bracing when she speaks. The label softens. Do not fight a label head-on. Replace it. If they call you difficult, become the person who asks the sharp question and brings the calm summary. If they call you junior, be the one who closes the loop and lands the deliverable clean. Make it easy for others to retell your story in a new sentence. People repeat what is simple. Borrow credibility when you need a reset. Stand next to someone respected. Share a stage, a project, a recommendation. Reputation is contagious and proximity is a shortcut. Then hold the gain with consistency. A single perfect act is a headline. A dozen quiet ones are a new identity. Mind your openings. The first minute and the first sentence anchor everything that follows. If you are prone to rambling, script your first line. If you run late, arrive early and be visibly ready. The start writes the story people expect to read. Narrate your intent without performing. Silence gets filled with suspicion. A calm, honest beat of context turns accidents into understanding. I am closing a loop by noon. I am resetting that file naming. I am owning last week's miss. And here is my fix. You are not bragging, you are steering. Change the room to change the reputation. New teams, new roles, new rhythms. Sometimes the label sticks because the environment never updates. A fresh context lets people see the version you have already become. And guard your name like a bank account. Every promise kept is a deposit. Every broken word is a debt with interest. When you err, pay fast and in full. Apologise once, repair twice, then move with quiet excellence until the balance climbs again. In the end, your reputation is not what you say about you. It is what others say when you leave the room. Give them better words. Keep giving them day after day until the lens changes. Then protect that lens like your future depends on it, because it does. Most of what you do today will not matter. That sounds harsh, but it is a gift if you know where to look. There is a hidden pattern running through work, business, health, even relationships. A small slice of your effort produces the majority of your outcomes. Not a perfect ratio, not a rigid formula, but a dependable tilt of reality. When you respect it, everything gets simpler and faster. Think about your week. A few conversations created real momentum. The rest were polite motion. A few clients paid the bills. The rest absorbed your time. A few features delighted users. The rest cluttered your roadmap. A few exercises built strength. The rest kept you sweaty and stuck. The lesson is constant. Focus on the vital few. Reduce the trivial many. Here is how to put it to work. First, decide what success looks like in one sentence. Clear aim, clear filter. Then list everything you did last week and everything you plan to do this week. Circle the tasks that actually moved you toward that aim. Be honest. If you could only do 3 things next week and still feel proud, which 3 would they be? Those are your high leverage moves. Schedule them when your mind is sharp. Protect that window like your future depends on it, because it does. Now, prune. Ask yourself which tasks are maintenance, which are ego, and which are impact. Kill or delegate the low leverage. Batch the maintenance. Pour your best energy into the few actions that unlock disproportionate results. And then apply the principle again. Within your top priorities, there is an even smaller set that creates the majority of the gain. That is the 80-20 of the 80-20. Often, a mere 4% of what you do drives roughly 64% of what you get. Find it, double it, and let it compound. This is not about laziness. It is about courage. It takes courage to cut, to say no, to stop polishing what should be thrown away. It takes courage to choose one metric that matters and accept that progress there counts more than busyness everywhere else. You will feel the pull to do it all. Resist. Depth beats breadth. Precision beats volume. Tomorrow morning, write your aim, dump your tasks, and circle the few that, if completed, would turn the day into a win, even if nothing else happened. Do those first. Repeat daily, review weekly, and each month refine again. Over time, you will notice momentum where there used to be noise, clarity where there used to be clutter, and results that look suspiciously like luck. It is not luck. It is the quiet law you finally chose to obey. Walk into a crowded room, and your mind starts doing magic tricks with faces. One person seems luminous, another fades into the background, and nothing about either of them actually changed. The trick is contrast. The eye, the brain, the heart, they compare before they understand. Here is the idea in plain terms. We rarely judge in isolation. We judge by proximity. In relationships, attraction often spikes or sinks depending on who stands beside whom. Next to someone who highlights your strengths, style, warmth, ease, you appear more attractive by comparison. Next to someone who spotlights what you lack, you might feel like you disappear. It is not fair. It is human. It is also something you can use without being manipulative. Choose contexts that let your best qualities read clearly, not at the expense of others, but in honest relief against the noise. Picture this. You arrive at a friend's birthday. Your buddy is a whirlwind, loud shirt, bigger laugh, telling stories over the music. You are the opposite. Composed, curious, easy on the eyes in a quiet way. You get introduced. This is Sam. A minute later, someone says, "You have a calm energy." They lean in. You ask a thoughtful question. They notice your eyes, not because your friend is less, but because your difference reads. The contrast does the first 30 seconds of work, and your character does the next 30. The same rule shows up in photos and apps. Place a simple, clean shot of you between two messy ones and you pop. Place it between two stunning high-drama portraits and you look muted. Both can be true of the same face. That is the power and the trap of contrast. Psychologically, our brains lean on shortcuts. We anchor to what is nearby, then exaggerate differences to make quick decisions. In love and friendship, that means first impressions are often borrowed from the surroundings before they are earned by the person. Knowing this does not make you fake. It makes you intentional. So use it, but use it well. Not to put anyone down, but to set the stage where your real strengths show. Meet in places that fit you. If you are thoughtful, choose a quieter corner. If you are playful, choose movement. If someone dazzles in a crowd, meet them for coffee and see what remains when the spotlight shrinks. Change the frame and you will see what is signal and what is glare. In the end, contrast is a lens, not the truth. Let it help you be seen without letting it blind you. Choose the company and the context that reveal your best. Then let your behavior confirm what the first glance promised. The law of contrast can open the door. Your character invites someone to stay. The best coder didn't get the raise. The calendar did. The meeting landed on a high-energy Monday after a big win, not a sleepy Friday before a budget freeze. That's the part nobody teaches you when you start working hard and waiting for someone to notice. The moment is a silent decision maker. Call it the law of timing. Promotions and raises do not move on merit alone. They ride on windows that open and close. Budgets reset. Priorities shift. Leaders are tracking a story they want to keep going. If you slip your ask into the right chapter of that story, you're suddenly exactly what we need. If you miss it, your excellence gets a polite "not yet." Picture this. Maya ships a complicated feature ahead of schedule. She's proud, and she should be. She asks for a raise the day after her manager gets news of a hiring freeze. "This is great work," he says, "but we have to pause. Let's revisit next year." It stings. Now picture Leo. He helps a team close a major client, then waits 2 weeks. When the glow is still there but the dust has settled, he walks in with numbers, context, and a plan to scale what worked. "I want to take on more responsibility formally," he says, "and align my comp with the value I'm driving." Different energy, different answer. Psychologically, this is how minds work. Recent wins feel bigger. Momentum feels safer to fund, and decisions lean toward whatever keeps the current story moving forward. Timing creates a sense of ease, of fit, of course, and the timing matters. So how do you use this without playing games? Start by reading cycles. Notice when budgets are set, when performance reviews lock, when leadership meetings happen. Then watch mood. Ask when people are calm, not frantic. Tie your request to a fresh result, not a vague promise. Instead of, "I've been working hard for months," try, "In the last few weeks, we cut churn by a meaningful %. Here's how I can scale that impact if I'm formally leading it." You're not changing who you are. You're placing your value where it's easiest to see. Seed early too. A month before you plan to ask, say, "I'm thinking about the next step in scope and compensation. What outcomes would make that a no-brainer?" Now you're co-writing the moment before it arrives. When the wins come, you connect the dots you already laid out. You still have to be good, but merit without momentum is a song played to an empty room. Find the right room, the right hour, the right audience. Let your work be undeniable and let the moment make it easy to say yes. That's the law of timing. A laugh is a handshake the brain trusts. It slips past defences, unhooks pride, and lets people meet you where ideas would normally clash. That is the law of laughter. When you create a moment of lightness, people tend to like you more, even when they do not share your point of view. Think of disagreement like a knot. Pulling harder tightens it. Laughter is the little twist that loosens the fibers. You do not need to be a comedian. You need small human sparks. Start with warmth, a genuine smile, a relaxed breath, and a playful line like, "I am about to say something bold, so I brought my apology face." This signals friendly intent. People lean in because you gave them a safe frame before the friction. Use gentle self-deprecation. Aim the humor at yourself, not at them. It says, "I am not a threat. I am a person." Try something like, "I once tried to fix a sink," with motivational quotes. So feel free to correct me. You lower your own status by a hair and paradoxically earn respect. Label the tension with a wink. If a conversation feels heavy, you might say, "This room has the vibe of a software update no one asked for." Everyone smiles because you named the elephant without stabbing it. Then share your view. Keep jokes short. A quick beat, then your point. Humor is seasoning, not the meal. Avoid punching down or joking about pain people cannot opt out of. Go for shared absurdities, everyday mishaps, or playful metaphors. Think of the rule of 3 in simple terms: 2 straight beats, then a twist. I came for clarity, I stayed for confusion, and I am leaving with snacks. A tiny silliness like that resets the room. Use callbacks to build rapport. If someone earlier joked about a broken coffee machine, later you can say, "I promise, this idea has more pressure than the espresso." The shared reference bonds the group and keeps your message sticky. When you disagree, add a soft cushion. Try, "You might be right, and here is the bit I see differently." Or, "I love your angle. My brain took the scenic route." You are not surrendering the argument. You are giving their nervous system a place to sit down. Practice collecting harmless lines from daily life. Note oddities, misfires, and small embarrassments. These become ready bridges in tense moments. Over time, your presence carries the memory of relief. People remember how you made them feel more than what you made them think, and that feeling buys you attention, patience, and grace. Lead with a laugh, deliver your truth, and leave the door open. You may not win every debate, but you will win the room. That is the law of laughter at work. The first promotion is usually decided in the hallway, long before the form hits HR. That is the law of visibility. It is not about how much you do. It is about being seen doing it. You can be brilliant in the dark and still be overlooked, while someone with half your horsepower gets tapped because their work leaves footprints where decision makers walk. Picture 2 people. One moves quietly, fixes everything at midnight, and ships magic without a word. The other shares early drafts, offers quick updates, asks for feedback in public, and narrates progress as it happens. When an urgent project appears, who gets the call? Not the ghost. Visibility makes you a safe bet. This is not about bragging. It is about reducing uncertainty. Leaders make bets based on the information they can see. When you narrate your work, you become a clear bet. When you hide, you become a mystery, and mysteries rarely get budget or trust. Practice visible work in small, repeatable ways. Replace silent grinding with short status nudges in the channels people actually read. Open a meeting by naming the one outcome you are aiming for, then connect your work to that outcome at the end. Show the messy draft and invite a single pointed question you genuinely need answered. Volunteer for problems that touch other teams, and then share the before and after, even if the after is only a partial win. Speak early in meetings with context, not conclusions, so you set a frame others can build on. If you are remote, leave a trail of artifacts, quick screen recordings, concise notes, or a 2-sentence recap after a decision. Make the path of your work paved, not invisible. Understand the optics of timing. Visibility has rhythm. If you only surface when you finish, you will always be late to the story. Surface at the start to align, in the middle to adjust, and near the end to prepare the handoff. That rhythm builds trust faster than any sprint in the shadows. Reframe the spotlight. It is not aimed at you, it is carried by you. Point it at the problem, at the customer, at the metrics that matter, and you will be seen as a leader, even without the title. Leaders are not louder, they are findable. For the next week, try a simple cadence. In the morning, state what you intend to move. Midday, share one concrete step you took. Before you log off, note what changed and what you need next. That is not noise. That is an invitation for alignment, support, and accountability. Do the work, then make the work visible. In a world of crowded calendars and partial attention, the seen story wins. A river does not argue with the mountain, it curves around it. Your brain does the same thing. It chooses the bend, the shortcut, the smoother path. That is the law of ease. Give a human 2 paths, and the one with fewer steps, fewer decisions and fewer annoyances wins almost every time. Think about how your day actually happens. The phone on the table is easier than the book in the bag, so the thumb scrolls and the pages stay closed. The snacks at eye level are easier than the vegetables in the drawer, so the hand grabs what it sees. The couch is closer than the shoes, so the workout turns into a promise you will make again tomorrow. None of this is about willpower. It is about friction. Add a little friction and behavior slows. Remove a little friction and behavior flows. So the game is not to fight human nature. The game is to design paths. If you want to read more, make the first page easier than the first swipe. Put the book on your pillow so it greets you before sleep. If you want to move more, make the first step easier than the first excuse. Sleep in your workout clothes, lay the shoes by the door. Choose a workout so simple you could start half awake. If you want to eat better, make the better choice easier than the usual one. Wash and cut fruit in advance. Keep water visible. Move junk food out of reach or out of the house. You can also reverse it. To break a habit, add tiny speed bumps. Log out of the app you overuse. Move it to a folder on the last screen. Turn your phone to grayscale so every icon looks a little boring. Put the remote in a drawer across the room. Small hassles are small, but they stack, and the brain starts choosing something else without a fight. Aim for obvious, effortless, and immediate. Obvious means the next action is in your line of sight. Effortless means it takes fewer steps than the alternative. Immediate means you feel a quick win right away. A single push-up after you roll out of bed. 1 paragraph as coffee brews. 1 glass of water before opening your laptop. Tiny frictionless starts beat grand. Heroic plans that require perfect conditions. You do not need to be stronger than your impulses. You need to lay out a smoother path. The river does not conquer the mountain. It patiently chooses the curve again and again. And over time, it carves a canyon. If you make good choices, the easiest choices, they will carry you without a constant struggle. Build your life so the path of least resistance is the path you want to take. By the time you cross the room, your reputation has already been stamped. That is the law of first impressions. People decide who you are in a handful of seconds, and once that picture hardens, it takes a crane to lift it. So do not leave those seconds to chance. Shape them. Begin before you speak. Walk in like you belong where you are heading. Not faster, not slower, just steady. Shoulders back. Chin easy, not high. A small breath in, a longer breath out. That one breath resets your face, softens the jaw, and sends a quiet signal of calm. Let your hands be visible. A slight smile, the kind that touches the eyes, tells people you are safe to approach. Meet eyes the way you would meet a friend at the door. Hold, do not stare. Release, do not dart. If you scan the room, land your gaze where you want attention to land next. People follow eyes more than words. When you speak first, start simple and warm. Say their name like a gift you are returning, not a test you are passing. Offer one true observation that shows you are present. Great to meet you. I heard your team just wrap that project. Then share a short line that places you. I work on the operations side, making complex things feel simple. Warmth first, competence second. People must feel you before they can rate you. Your voice carries a story even when your words are plain. Finish sentences. Let the last word land. If your voice races, the mind flags danger. If your voice drags, the mind drifts. Aim for steady waves, crisp edges. Friendly at the start, firm at the end. Dress like an echo of the room, with one detail that anchors memory. A clean line, a subtle colour, not loud, just yours. Tidy beats trendy. Fit beats price. Listen with your face. Nod once. Mirror their tone by a small degree, not a parody. Ask one short, open question that lets them talk about what matters to them. What pulled you into that work? Then hold the space. The fastest way to look interesting is to be interested. Put your phone away before you enter. Your first impression starts the second you are visible, not the second you say hello. Even your pause at the threshold is part of it. If you stumble, name it lightly and pivot. That was clumsy. Here is what I meant. Honesty resets the moment better than a scramble. Remember, people rarely update their first picture of you. Give them a picture worth keeping. Calm body, warm eyes, clean words, real interest. Do that in the first few breaths, and the rest of the conversation becomes 10 times easier. A single plank under a rock can move a boulder a person could never budge with bare hands. That is the law of leverage. Most people think effort is the hero of every story, but effort without leverage is a shovel against a mountain. With leverage, the same push moves the landscape. Picture two builders. One swings a hammer from dawn to dusk. The other spends an hour setting up a nail gun, a jig, and a simple checklist. By nightfall, the second builder has framed an entire room, while the first is still sweating over a single wall. Both worked hard. Only one multiplied the push. Leverage is anything that lets results grow faster than your energy. Tools turn muscle into momentum. Knowledge turns confusion into shortcuts. Connections turn closed doors into open hallways. When you stack them, your output stops being linear. It becomes unfair. Resource leverage is the gear. A camera, a template, a piece of software, a small budget, even a well-designed calendar. These are tools that keep working when your attention wanders. Knowledge leverage is the map. A script that automates your follow-ups. A headline that gets read. A system that captures every step, so you never start from zero. Connection leverage is the bridge. A mentor who points out the one move that matters. A collaborator who brings an audience. A friend who makes an introduction that saves you 6 months. The mistake is thinking leverage replaces hard work. It does not. It changes where the work goes. You stop pushing the boulder. You build the lever. You find the fulcrum. You test angles. You get 1% better at the setup until the push becomes easy. Start small and specific. Choose one stubborn bottleneck. Ask, where is the lever? What tool? What template? What person? What piece of information would make this trivial? If you are sending proposals, create a reusable skeleton and a bank of examples. If you are selling, record one clear story that answers the top 3 objections and share it before the call. If you are learning, curate your notes into a 1-page playbook so you can recall the exact steps later. Protect your reputation. It is the strongest lever you will ever own. When people trust that your word is clean and your work is solid, every introduction, opportunity, and idea tilts the ground in your favor, then compound it. Create assets that work when you rest. A tutorial, a checklist, a piece of code, a short talk, a relationship you tend carefully. The beautiful thing about leverage is that it stacks. A small edge today becomes a flywheel tomorrow. Keep building levers. Keep moving fulcrums. Then apply a calm, steady push and watch the mountain shift. Say a phrase out loud often enough, and it starts to sound like a fact. Whisper it to yourself in the morning. Hear it again at lunch. Catch it echoed by someone else in the afternoon. And by the evening it feels solid. That's the law of repetition. The more you hear something, the truer it feels. A co-worker drops the same line all week. We are behind, we are behind. At first, it is a status update. By Friday, it is a mood. A friend shrugs and says, I am terrible with names. They say it again when they meet someone new, and again when they forget, until the sentence doesn't just describe them, it defines them. And then there is the soundtrack of everyday life. Slogans, headlines, opinions repeated like a drum beat, until they feel less like noise and more like the weather. Psychologically, this happens because our brains mistake familiarity for truth. When something is easy to process, it feels safe, and what feels safe gets a vote as real. Researchers even have a name for it, the illusory truth effect. You do not need a lab to see it. You can feel it in your body when a line you have heard before slides down easier than a brand new thought. Here is the part almost no one tells you. Repetition does not care what you feed it. It will strengthen whatever you loop. So you can let random voices program your beliefs. Or you can become intentional with the phrases you allow to take root. Not truth by authority, but truth by familiarity. Not blind acceptance, but chosen repetition. Try this in small human ways. When your inner critic wants to repeat, I always mess this up, trade it for I am learning how to do this well. Say it when you begin, say it after mistakes, say it when you try again. When a teammate keeps forecasting doom, you can acknowledge the challenge and repeat a stabilizing line. We have a plan, and we adapt. It is not denial, it is direction. And if a partner says, I never do anything right, you can gently answer, you are improving. And I notice it, and then keep noticing out loud until improvement feels familiar to them too. Guard your inputs. Choose a few sentences you want to become true in your life and in your circles. Seed them in ordinary conversations. Put them where your eyes land each day. Say them when your energy is high and repeat them when it is low. Ask yourself, who benefits if I keep repeating this, and who benefits if I do not? The answers will tell you which lines to retire and which ones to rehearse. Repetition is a printing press for belief. Print what you are proud to carry. When the day gets noisy, return to your chosen lines. When doubt gets loud, let your chosen lines get louder. Say them until they feel natural. Then keep going one day more. Because what you repeat, you start to recognize. And what you recognize, you start to live. The world rarely shows us what is there. It mirrors what we expect to see. That's the quiet pull of the law of confirmation. We notice what fits our beliefs and filter out what doesn't. Name it, and suddenly so many confusing moments make sense. Picture this. Your friend says, "My boss is out to get me." The next day the boss walks by without saying hello. Your friend logs it as proof. Later, the boss forwards a team praise email. Your friend shrugs. "They didn't mention me by name." Same office, same events, completely different story depending on the lens. Or think about your feed. If you believe everyone else is ahead, every post becomes evidence that you're behind, even if someone is quietly struggling off camera. Once a belief settles in, your attention becomes a loyal dog that fetches only the sticks you've thrown before. Psychologically, this tendency rides on the brain's habit of protecting our identity and conserving energy. It's easier to confirm than to reconsider. So we collect matches and ignore mismatches, and the loop tightens until it feels like reality itself. But here's the shift that changes the game. The goal isn't to be perfectly unbiased. It's to choose better defaults and ask better questions. Not, "How is this proving me right?" but "What would I notice if the opposite were true?" That small pivot breaks the spell. Try it in a conversation. Someone says, "That plan won't work." The auto-response is to defend your idea and search for agreement. Instead, ask, "What piece am I not seeing?" Suddenly, your attention scans for missing information rather than validation, and you get smarter in seconds. This works with self-talk too. If you catch yourself thinking, "I'm terrible at first impressions," ask, "Where did I actually connect?" Your mind will retrieve moments you would have thrown away, and your confidence recalibrates. Ground the shift in a simple question you can remember under pressure. A quick story. A teammate once sent a short, blunt message. "Need that file." I felt dismissed. The law clicked on, and I started stacking proof from past texts. Then I paused and asked the opposite test. What if they were overwhelmed and concise, not cold? I replied, "On it? Anything specific you want in the notes?" They answered, "Thanks, sorry, juggling 3 deadlines." The story changed because the question changed. Use this law on purpose. Prime your attention each morning with a belief worth finding. People can surprise you. Effort compounds. Small progress counts. Then spend the day noticing even tiny evidence. You're not pretending. You're widening the spotlight so it catches reality you used to miss. Over time, the law of confirmation becomes a lever, not a trap. The world mirrors what you train your eyes to see, so train them for truth, for nuance, and for possibilities that make you braver. Whispers travel faster than resumes. That is the quiet engine behind the law of popularity. The more people who know you, like you, and can explain you in one sentence, the easier opportunities find their way to you. Think of the last time a friend texted you saying, "I know someone perfect for this." That is not luck. It is visibility meeting trust. People are pattern matchers. When your name lives in their mind with a clear label, they plug you into openings without you lifting a finger. There is a simple rhythm to build this. Become easy to discover. Use one memorable line to describe what you do and who you help. Keep it human, not grand. Then show up where your people already gather. In rooms and circles, be the person who asks one thoughtful question, remembers one detail, and sends one follow-up note the next day. That tiny trio sets you apart more than any long self-promo. Next, curate collisions. Host a small monthly coffee where you introduce 2 people who should meet. Share credit. Shine a light on others' work. Popularity is an energy loop. What you spotlight reflects back on you. When you consistently create value without a scoreboard, people keep your name on their tongue. Guard your reputation with boring reliability. Arrive when you say you will. Deliver when you say you can. Reply even when there is nothing in it for you. Reliability is charisma in slow motion. Over time, it becomes the story people tell about you when you are not in the room. Make your bridge easy to cross. Post simple, useful insights in your voice. Share lessons, not lectures. Ask for small favors, offer small favors, and keep both simple to say yes to. People are busy. The clearer your ask and the easier your yes, the more often doors swing open. Remember, proximity is power. Sit closer to the action than feels comfortable. Volunteer at events, raise your hand for the unglamorous tasks, and stay late to help clean up. That is where real conversations happen, and where people decide who is in the circle. Resist the scarcity script. There is room. Promote peers without fear that it shrinks you. Popularity multiplies in communities that celebrate, not compete. The person who cheers the loudest becomes the person others rally around. If you feel behind, borrow momentum. Attach your effort to a cause, a mentor, or a project with gravity. Contribute visibly. Let results do the bragging, while your attitude does the inviting. The law of popularity is not about being loud. It is about being present, useful, and memorable in small, repeatable ways. Start with one introduction, one follow-up, one honest compliment today. Do that on loop. Before long, you will notice it. Opportunities start whispering your name before you even ask. Power often hides in plain sight, not in titles, not in flair, in proximity. The law of availability says that when you are physically around, you begin to matter more, because humans assign importance to what is near, familiar, and easy to reach. Think about the colleague whose desk sits near the entryway. People greet them, ask quick questions, loop them into decisions, not because they begged for influence, but because they were there when choices were made. Presence becomes priority. Familiarity breeds trust. And trust opens doors that talent alone cannot. This is not about hovering or being a nuisance. It is about purposeful presence. Show up a little earlier than others and occupy the spaces where conversations begin before the official conversation. The hallway outside a meeting, the shared coffee counter, the quiet moment after an event when the most honest thoughts surface. Ease into these moments with a calm hello, a small observation, a helpful hand with a chair or a cord. Small gestures make you part of the mental map, the person who is always within reach when something needs doing. Make yourself easy to find. Set a predictable rhythm so people know when you are around. Anchor yourself to a visible spot, even for short stints, and let your availability be obvious without being loud. Keep your tools ready. A notebook open, a pen visible. The body language of someone who can be approached. When people do approach, give them your full attention, even for a brief exchange. Quick, thoughtful responses plant a seed. You are reliable, which makes you valuable, which makes you invited. Follow the work's natural paths. Stand where questions travel. Linger where decisions form. Move through the day like a friendly shadow to the problems you want to solve. But protect your energy by practicing short, clean exits. Presence loses its power when it overstays or competes for the spotlight. The goal is to be the calm, steady option, not the loudest voice. Pair availability with usefulness. Bring a small resource, a checklist, a draft, a spare adapter. The world remembers the person who made things easier at the exact moment it mattered. Repeat this calmly, day after day. And watch how your name starts appearing in conversations you did not attend, how introductions happen without you asking, how invitations land with your name near the top. You do not need a new title to become more important. You need to be the person people can reach. Walk the routes where trust flows. Be seen. Be steady. Be helpful. If you want a larger role, claim the ground first. The law of availability is simple. Get close, stay useful, and let presence do the quiet work of status. Before you order your next coffee, your choice is already tilting in a direction, not because of taste, but because your mind has been nudged by anchors laid quietly in the background. That soft amber light, the warm cinnamon air, the music at just the right tempo. Each is a psychological post hammered into the ground, a place for your decision to tie itself without you noticing. Anchors are associations your brain builds to save energy. A deep blue page whispers trust. A punch of red turns up urgency. Vanilla and cinnamon suggest comfort and indulgence. Citrus hints at freshness and new beginnings. None of these cues ask for permission. They set the baseline feeling first, and your choice simply drifts toward it, thinking it arrived there on its own. Consider the menu that highlights one dish, with a tiny star or a different font. That is not decoration. It is a spotlight that becomes your default reference point. Or the wine list that shows an absurdly expensive bottle at the top. You are not meant to buy it. You are meant to feel that everything after it is reasonable by comparison. Even the language you hear is a frame. 95% fat-free sounds, safer than 5% fat, even though they are identical. The anchor is the first impression. The rest of your thoughts orbit around it. Sound does its part. Faster music compels quicker choices, helping you move along. Slower rhythms invite lingering, which often turns into extra purchases. Scents carry old memories into new aisles, slipping nostalgia into the cart. Colour sets the stage before a single word lands. Together they create a climate, and decisions are weather. You think you are looking at options, but you are actually looking from an anchor. This law cuts both ways. You can learn to notice it and use it deliberately. When you shop, ask yourself what you saw first, heard first, or smelled first. That is your anchor. Pause, reset, and choose a new reference point. Compare products by your own criteria rather than the most prominent item. Reframe the language in your head. If it is framed as a gain, translate it to the corresponding loss, and vice versa. When you present ideas, set your own anchor. Lead with the concept you want everything else to reference. Use colour, scent, and sound as signals, not decoration, so the feeling you create matches the choice you want people to make. The secret is not to become immune. The secret is to choose your anchors before someone else does. Once you control the first impression, the rest stops feeling like a mystery and starts looking like a map. A career turns on a missed train, a last-minute cancellation, a chance hello in a crowded room. The best breaks feel like weather blowing in from nowhere, and often they are. Talent gets you ready, but right place, right time does the heavy lifting. Here's the idea to hold on to. Luck isn't a trophy you earn. It's a collision you enable. Think of it as surface area. The bigger your surface area for chance. More people who've seen your name, more rooms you step into, more small bets you ship, the more often randomness bumps into you. That's the law of luck. Not skill alone, but exposure multiplied by timing. What does that look like in real life? A quiet designer polishes a portfolio in private for months. Across town, A slightly less polished designer posts imperfect drafts, joins a tiny meetup, and replies to a message at night. "Can you hop on a quick call?" "Sure, I'm free." The call leads to a Tuesday coffee, which becomes a Thursday trial. Neither person suddenly became more talented. One created more intersections for luck to find them. Here's another glimpse. A musician covers one song at a neighborhood bar because a friend begged them to fill in. Someone's cousin's manager is there only because their earlier dinner ran long. A week later, there's a studio visit. Not merit, but collision. Psychologically, our minds want neat cause and effect, work hard, win. But reality is messier. Repeated exposure quietly stacks the deck, because more encounters mean more chances for someone to notice, remember, and choose you. That's why small, frequent outputs beat rare, flawless ones. Each thing you ship is a new lottery ticket with your name on it. Each room you enter is another roll of the dice. This isn't magical thinking. It's multiplying opportunities and letting probability finally do its job. The reframe is simple. Not be the most talented, but be the most findable. Not perfection, but presence. Not waiting for confidence, but making contact. Tiny moves that widen your surface area. Say yes to the short call. Send the one-paragraph pitch. Show up early and linger 5 minutes after. Share the draft that's 80% done. These are small human moments where collisions happen, where people remember you exist, and where luck can land without an invitation. You can feel the relief in this shift. You don't have to predict which action will pay off. You only have to increase the number of times something could. Real examples anchor the point, and then the insight sticks. When you change the conditions, you change the outcomes. In a world that celebrates prodigies and virtuosos, it's liberating to tell the truth. Success isn't a straight line drawn by talent. It's a web of near misses and gentle nudges, threaded by people who happen to see you at the exact moment they were ready. Grow the web. Raise more sails than you think you need. The wind is unpredictable. The law of luck is not. Power gathers in quiet places. Watch what happens when you stop rushing to fill every gap with words and let the quiet do some heavy lifting for you. The law of silence isn't about disappearing. It's about choosing presence over noise. Silence is not passive. It directs the room, shapes decisions, and invites truth to walk in unannounced. When you hold a pause, people reveal what they value, what they fear, and what they actually need. Psychologically, that small pocket of quiet lowers defenses and creates a sense of safety, which pulls richer answers to the surface. Picture this. A friend says, "I don't think I'm cut out for this," and your reflex is to throw solutions like confetti. Instead, you let 2 beats pass. You mirror what you heard. It sounds heavy. And keep the door open with a gentle look. The silence isn't empty. It's permission. Your friend exhales, then finally names the real thing. It's not the work. It's the feeling of not being seen. That moment of quiet didn't avoid the problem. It uncovered it. Psychologically, this works because people step forward when they don't feel pushed. The pause communicates respect and autonomy. Or think about a negotiation. You make your offer and then stop. No fidgeting, no nervous justifying, no backpedal. The other person fills the space. We could maybe move the timeline, and suddenly you've learned the real constraint. Silence earned you information that talking would have buried. Professionals in high-stakes environments use structured pauses not as empty air, but as part of the system that improves judgment and performance. The gap is not a break from the work. it is the work. Even in creative rooms, silence is fuel. Ask your team for ideas and wait a full 5 seconds longer than feels natural. At first it's awkward, then the second wave arrives. The quiet thinkers, the ones who don't compete to speak first, but often bring the insight that shifts the project. That pause says, we're not rushing past the good stuff. It turns participation from a race into an invitation. Psychologically, the space signals that contributions will be received, not trampled, which draws out better thinking. Here's the reframe. Silence is not withholding, it's revealing. Not avoidance, but attention. Not control, but care. When you stop arguing to win and start listening to learn, conversations move from opposition to discovery. And when you do speak, your words land with weight because they weren't competing with your anxiety. Try it this week. In one tough moment, give the quiet a job. Count a slow 3. Let the other person meet you halfway. Then choose your words like spotlights, not floodlights. You will notice more, need less, and learn faster. Say less to hear more. Say less to see more. Say less and watch the room lean in. That is the law of silence. The quickest way to change a room is to walk in carrying a win. Faces soften, then stiffen. Smiles turn into thin lines. That strange breeze you feel is not air. It is envy, and it moves faster than any rumour. Here is the quiet truth. Envy is not about what you have. It is about what someone else thinks they should have had first. You did not steal it, but it can feel that way to them. That is why the first move is to lower the temperature. Share credit before it is asked for. Say the names of the people who helped you. Spread the light and you turn glare into glow. Notice the tells. A compliment that lands like a jab. A sudden silence when you speak. Advice that downplays your work while pretending to guide you. Envy rarely arrives in a loud costume. It slips in wearing concern, sarcasm, or perfect politeness. Do not argue with it. Acknowledge the emotion without feeding it. Keep your tone warm, your details light, and your boundaries firm. You disarm envy by redirecting attention. Ask for input. Offer a small role that lets someone claim a slice of progress. Not the crown, just a ribbon. People do not sabotage what they helped shape. And when you can, under-promise and over-deliver in private. Public rings are where envy swings hardest. If you feel it in yourself, do not swat it away. Envy is a compass pointing toward desire. Name exactly what it is pointing to. Skill, recognition, freedom. Then break the trance by turning comparison into a plan. Swap their highlight reel for your daily reps. 5 minutes of practice beats 5 minutes of scrolling through someone else's life. Envy grows in still water. It shrinks when you move. Watch the difference between admiration and imitation. Admiration learns. Imitation copies and collapses. Borrow principles, not identities. Ask, what did they repeatedly do, not who did they pretend to be? The law here is simple. If your win must be someone else's loss, you will attract enemies. If your win creates more room, you will collect allies. A story you know already. 2 colleagues, same start, 1 big promotion. The one left behind laughs, nods, then forgets to forward a critical email. It looks small. It is not. You cannot fix their feeling, but you can protect your focus. Keep records. Be generous once, twice, but not endlessly. Make your standard visible and your circle chosen. Remember this promise. Radiate quietly, credit quickly, celebrate briefly, then go back to the work. Envy hates momentum. It wants you frozen explaining yourself. Do not. Treat every jealous glance as proof you crossed a border others have not yet reached. Smile, Lift the fence for those who want to walk, and keep moving. It started with a free pen. I signed my name, smiled at the friendly guy behind the booth, and walked away feeling oddly compelled to hear his pitch. That tiny gift wasn't about ink. It was a lever. That uneasy tug in your chest has a name: reciprocity debt. Reciprocity debt is the invisible IOU. Your mind prints the moment someone gives you something: time, advice, a compliment, a coffee. Your brain whispers, "Be fair, pay it back." It feels like kindness, but it can steer your choices without you noticing. Think about the last sample you accepted, the colleague who quickly fixed your slide, the neighbour who brought cookies right before asking for help with their move. None of those acts are bad, but the tug is real, and the tug can be used. Why does it work so well? Because your nervous system is ancient. In small tribes, repaying favours kept everyone safe. Today, that same wiring fires in boardrooms, stores, and group chats. You feel warmer toward givers. You listen longer. You say yes a little faster. And if you try to walk away, your body registers it like a tiny breach of trust. That discomfort is the debt collecting interest. Here is how to spot it. You catch yourself thinking, "I owe them." You rush your decision instead of sleeping on it. You feel guilty imagining a no. You justify with phrases like, "It is the least I can do." When those signals show up, pause. Name it out loud, even quietly to yourself. I am feeling reciprocity debt. Naming breaks the spell. Then apply a simple reset. Separate appreciation from obligation. Say thank you fully with presence. Then decide on your timeline, not theirs. Try a line like, "This was generous, and I want to give it the thought it deserves. I will get back to you tomorrow." If a choice impacts your money, your time, or your reputation, step away from the tug before you answer. Real generosity does not demand instant repayment. If you are the giver, use the law with integrity. Give to create value, not to create leverage. Offer help and attach no strings. Try, "I am sharing this because it might help." No need to do anything in return. Ironically, that clarity deepens trust far more than a sneaky favour ever could. Here is the paradox. The more you understand reciprocity debt, the freer you become to repay in ways that are true. You can say yes because you mean it, and no without guilt. You can accept kindness and still keep your steering wheel. Let others hand you pens. You choose what you sign. A single check mark can tilt a day. One small promise you keep to yourself, and the whole mood shifts. Not because the task was epic, but because you turned maybe later into done. That's the law of small wins. Tiny actions that create momentum, so real progress finally has somewhere to land. Think about the mornings when everything feels heavy. The project is massive, your room is a mess, your inbox looks like a protest. Instead of aiming for a sweeping victory, lower the bar until it's impossible to miss. Clear the corner of the desk, not the whole room. Open the document and write one messy sentence, not the perfect paragraph. Reply to one person with a kind, clear reply, not the entire backlog. The win isn't measured by size, it's measured by completion. Here's what it looks like in real life. You stare at your shoes, convincing yourself you'll run tomorrow. You say out loud, "Just walk to the end of the block." You go. At the corner, you think, "One more street." By the time you return, the version of you who almost skipped is a little surprised. In that moment, a story in your head shifts from "I avoid hard things" to "I start small and follow through." Psychologically, that shift matters because small wins act like positive reinforcement, building self-efficacy and making the next step easier to take. Or picture this at work. A teammate messages, "We're behind." Old you spirals, new you replies, "I'll draft the first 3 bullet points in 15 minutes. You set a timer, do exactly that, and send "first slices in." The team now has a starting line instead of a vague worry. That little slice didn't finish the race, but it fired the starting pistol. Why does this work so reliably? Progress changes how we feel more than pressure does. Each small win gives your brain a clean cue, a quick reward, and a simple next step. Psychologically, that ties into how routines form. Cue, action, reward. The habit loop is easier to build when the action is tiny enough to do even on a bad day, and the reward is immediate enough to feel real. The common belief is that discipline is about big, heroic effort, but the reframe is this. Discipline is mostly clever design. You design steps so light, you do them without wrestling yourself. Not write a book, but write for 5 minutes. Not eat perfectly, but add 1 colourful vegetable to this plate. Not be confident, but speak up once in the meeting. Small wins remove drama, and with less drama, you get more consistency. Notice the tone of your inner coach. When you catch yourself saying, "That's too small to matter," answer back, "It's small enough to happen." Because what happens repeatedly reshapes who you believe you are. Stack these wins like bricks. Give them names. Celebrate them quietly. The day doesn't need a miracle. It needs 1 step you can actually take, then another that feels just as doable. That is how the heavy thing moves. That is how momentum begins. Trust the law of small wins. You can feel it before you see it. A room tilts, sunny or stormy. And without meaning to, your chest tightens or your shoulders soften. That's the quiet rule most people live by, without naming it. Emotions spread. The law of emotional contagion says we borrow the mood we stand next to, and we lend ours to everyone within reach. Picture a busy coffee shop. The barista fumbles a lid, sighs and mutters, "I'm behind." A customer taps their foot. Another rolls their eyes. In seconds, the pace turns sharp. Now watch what happens when one person steps up with steady tone and unrushed eyes. "No rush. We'll take it one at a time." The barista's shoulders drop. The next customer softens their voice. The line moves the same speed, but it feels different. Someone changed the weather, not by force, but by signal. Here is the part most people miss. You do not have to absorb the strongest emotion in the room. You can broadcast something else. Emotions pass through posture, breath, and tone, long before words catch up. Speak a little slower, and people lean in. Exhale a little longer, and shoulders around you release. Name what is happening, and tension loses its edge. Psychologically, when people feel seen and understood, the body calms and the mind opens to better choices. That sense of safety lowers defenses and invites everyone out of reactivity into cooperation. Take a team huddle that starts tight. The manager enters clipped and hurried, and the group mirrors it. Meetings become a race, not a conversation. Flip it. The same manager arrives, takes a breath, and says, "I know we're juggling a lot. Let's sort the top piece together." That line names the strain without dramatizing it, and suddenly the signal shifts from scramble to solve. The contagion is still real, but now it works for you. Or think of a friend texting, "I'm overwhelmed." It is tempting to fix. Try this instead. Mirror the feeling first. "That sounds heavy. I'm with you." You just steadied the emotional field. Solutions can follow, But in the right sequence, they land. When someone feels understood, they stop bracing and start listening. The practical way to use this law is simple. Before you enter a room, choose the climate you want to spread. Set your body to it. Slower breath, softer jaw, eyes that actually see. Speak one clear sentence that names reality and points forward. In tense moments, be a thermostat, not a thermometer. You are always contagious. The only question is, with what? When you learn to carry calm, curiosity, or respect, people around you catch it, and the day bends in a better direction. That is the hidden law shaping every hallway, chat, and table you touch. Use it on purpose. A sticker can rewrite a story. Yesterday, a plain sweater sat unnoticed. Today, the same sweater is last chance, and suddenly it feels special. Nothing in the fabric changed. Only the frame around it did. That's the law of framing. People don't see situations as they are. They see them through the window you choose. The words, the order, the comparison, the feeling you set first. Those turn options into obvious choices. It is not manipulation. It is clarity. Frame something as a threat and everyone tenses. Frame it as a chance to protect what matters, and people move. Psychologically, this works because the frame shifts perceived safety and autonomy, which lowers defences and invites cooperation. Here is what it looks like in real life. Your team needs new software. You could say, "We're behind, and this tool fixes it." That frame shouts deficiency. Or you could say, "We already do the hard part well. This tool frees 2 hours, so we can do more of that." The same request, but the second frame honours competence and offers time, not a bandage for failure. Notice how the room relaxes. People are not protecting their ego anymore. They are protecting their time. When something feels fair and chosen, people lean in. Another example. A friend arrives late. You can start with, "You are always late." That frame makes them wrong and you right. And now you are arguing about character. Or try, "I was worried. Can we find a way to make arrivals easier?" The behaviour is the same, but the frame moves from accusation to problem solving. It creates safety. It lowers defences. It keeps connection in the centre, while you handle the friction at the edges. Why does framing carry this much weight? Because people are meaning makers before they are decision makers. The first feeling becomes the filter. If the frame says, "You failed," the brain guards identity. If the frame says, "You matter," the brain explores options. In that space, small tweaks produce big shifts. Not pressure, but partnership. Not force, but choice. Not prove yourself, but grow with me. To use the law of framing, begin with what is true and generous. Name what is already working before you suggest what could work better. Anchor the comparison wisely. From loss to protection, from threat to opportunity, from personal blame to shared improvement. Ask yourself, what frame would help them see the same picture with fresh eyes? You are already framing all day long. Make it intentional. Choose words that build safety without hiding the stakes. Choose comparisons that honour dignity while pointing to action. The picture can stay the same. Change the frame, and you change what people are willing to do next. The upgrade was supposed to change everything. For a week it did. Then the glow dimmed, and somehow your life felt the same size it was before the box arrived. That's not you being ungrateful. There's a quiet rule humming in the background of our lives. We get used to what we have, even the things we once begged for. Psychology has a name for it: hedonic adaptation. The mind resets its baseline. You can win, you can lose, and after a while, you drift back toward normal. In simple terms, Our brains are built to normalize repeated stimuli. Psychologically, that's called habituation, the way a joke hits hard the first time and then dulls with every replay, a pattern the style notes describe plainly, and the same engine behind why big changes fade into routine over time. A friend told me, "I thought the raise would fix everything." I celebrated for a weekend, and by Monday I was thinking about the next title. We laughed, but we both knew that feeling. The apartment finally has sunlight, and after a month, you no longer pause in that warm rectangle on the floor. The new relationship feels like fireworks. Then it becomes breakfast and dishes and calendars. This isn't bad news, it's an invitation. If our baseline slides back, we can learn how to tilt it forward again, not by chasing bigger peaks, but by protecting contrast and practicing renewal. Think of pleasure and meaning like flavors. If you dump salt on every dish, everything flattens. You do not need more salt, you need more range. Try this in everyday life. Instead of adding another coffee, slow the one you already have. Smell it. Hold the mug with both hands. Take the first sip like it is the first time. Tiny savouring interrupts the autopilot and writes the moment down. Plan small firsts on purpose. A new park on a Tuesday, a different route home, a playlist you have never heard. Novelty is the antidote to numbness. Rotate joys so they keep their edges. When everything is special, nothing is. Balance addition with subtraction. Take a day to remove the background noise that keeps stealing the spotlight, notifications, the constant scroll, the way every quiet minute becomes content. Let boredom do its job for a stretch. Desire sharpens in the pauses. Then tether your highs to something that outlasts the high. Gratitude said out loud. A short note after the dinner you loved. Teaching someone else the skill you just learned. When joy spills into meaning, it sticks. We are not broken for adapting. We are wired to survive, but we can design our days to remember what matters. Protect the contrast. Create gentle resets. Choose renewal over escalation. That's how you keep good things feeling good. Not by climbing a taller peak every time, but by learning to see the mountain you're already on. That is the quiet power behind hedonic adaptation, and it is yours to use. A crisp uniform, a heavy clipboard, and suddenly your spine straightens. That is the invisible pull of the law of authority figures. It works before you think. It works even when the authority is only a costume. Our brains are quick to borrow certainty from someone who looks like they've already made the hard decisions. Think about the last time a person with a badge, a lab coat, or a title told you what to do. Your pulse eased, your questions softened, you started to comply. That is not weakness, it is wiring. From childhood, we learn to survive by trusting those who seem to know the rules of the room. The signals are simple and everywhere. Clothing that implies rank, language that sounds like procedure, surroundings that look official, and a tone of voice that leaves no space for doubt. The more stressed or uncertain you feel, the more that signal slips past your guard. Here is the twist. The power is not in the person. It is in the frame built around them. Swap the frame and the power follows. A vest creates a gatekeeper. A title creates an expert. A cue creates a leader. Even a confident pause creates weight. The law is neutral. It can protect you and it can deceive you. To resist it, slow your body first. Breathe from your belly, drop your shoulders, and let your eyes settle. Calm gives your mind a moment to wake up. Then ask yourself 3 quiet questions. What is their proof? What is their incentive? What is my alternative? If they cannot show evidence, if they gain from your blind agreement. Or if there is a reasonable path you have not explored, you can choose a different move. You can say, "Thank you, I need a moment." You can say, "Please put that in writing." You can say, "I will get a second opinion." Authority hates delay because delay restores your agency. To use the law ethically, earn the frame you wear. Dress with intention, speak with clarity, and borrow environments that support your message. Keep your promises small and precise. Show receipts before you ask for trust. Trade on service, not superiority. When you carry authority this way, people feel safer around you, not smaller. They lean in because you lift the fog, not because you raise your voice. Remember, every room is running on hidden rules. Authority is a shortcut our minds take to save energy. Do not let it drive you off a cliff. Look for the signals. Test them with calm questions and choose your pace. Respect real expertise. Reject empty theatre. And when it is your turn to lead, let your credibility speak first and your costume speak last. There's a quiet switch that turns chaos into momentum, what you obey. All day long you're following orders, whether you notice it or not. The ping from your phone says, "Look now." The anxiety says, "Stall." The calendar says, "Go." The law of obedience is simple. You move in the direction of the rule you follow most consistently. Not because you lack freedom, but because clarity frees your energy. Psychologically, one clear rule lowers friction, calms resistance, and creates safety with yourself. When the rule is chosen, not forced, your mind cooperates. Let's make it real. Your alarm rings. Two voices wake up with you. One says, 5 more minutes. The other says, feet on the floor when it rings. You obey one. The morning doesn't start with heroics. It starts with obedience to the smallest standard. If you stand, momentum appears. If you snooze, fog spreads. Not because one choice is morally better, but because the body trusts what you consistently do. Obedience here is not submission to a clock. It's alignment with the person you are practicing being. Another example. A co-worker messages after dinner, "Quick favour." The old pattern is to obey urgency. You jump in, your evening dissolves, and you feel quietly resentful. Try a new rule. After dinner, messages wait until morning. You reply with a simple, "Got it, I'll handle this tomorrow." You obey your boundary. Oddly enough, respect grows, not just from others, but inside. You taught yourself you can be counted on. Here's the reframe most people miss. Discipline isn't about forcing yourself. It's about removing debate. Not pressure, but peace. Not control, but clarity. When you reduce decisions, you reduce internal arguments and your attention returns to the work or the rest you chose. So choose one domain and set one rule. 1. Say it out loud so your brain hears the commitment. For focus, try, during deep work, "My phone lives in another room." For health, try, "I move my body after coffee." For relationships, try, "I put my device face down when someone speaks." Make the rule kind, visible, and specific. If you break it, repair quickly. You're building trust, not chasing perfection. Over time, you'll notice something. The more you obey a principle you chose, the less you obey impulses you didn't choose. You become easier to lead by your values, harder to hijack by noise. The world will still pull at you. That's fine. You're not trying to control the world. You're training yourself to answer the right voice first. Pick your rule today. Obey it once. Let that tiny act turn the switch. Then do it again. Momentum is just obedience repeated until it looks like ease. The ground moves before every breakthrough. That is the law of uncertainty. It is not a glitch in the system. It is the system. Every bold choice, new relationship, career leap, or creative spark arrives wrapped in fog. The mistake is waiting for the fog to clear before you move. The win is learning to walk while the mist is thick. Think of uncertainty like weather. You cannot control the storm, but you can carry a jacket, choose your route, and keep going. Instead of demanding guarantees, you trade certainty for capability. Your confidence stops being, "I know what will happen," and becomes, "I know what I will do when anything happens." Here is how you practice it. First, pre-decide your flaws and ceilings. A flaw is the worst outcome you can survive. A ceiling is the best outcome you will celebrate. Say it out loud before you act. If this goes sideways, I lose some time and pride, and I am still standing. If it goes well, I gain momentum and information. Naming the edges pulls the fear out of the middle. Second, shift from predictions to experiments. A prediction begs to be correct. An experiment begs to be useful. Ask, what is the smallest test that teaches me the most? Send the message, run the tiny pilot, ship the messy draft. When the stakes are small, your reps get big. Third, replace control with clarity. You cannot control the timeline, but you can get clear on your next move. You cannot control other people, but you can get clear on your boundaries. Clarity gathers your attention, and attention is the antidote to anxiety. Fourth, befriend the word maybe. Maybe means options are alive. Maybe means there is still room for you to shape the story. When your mind demands a guarantee, answer with a plan instead. If this, then I do that. If not this, then I try that. You are not trapped. You are branching. Remember, your nervous system is not the enemy. It sounds the alarm because it cares. Slow the breath. Name the feeling. You can be scared and steady at the same time. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the mastery of it for the next 60 seconds. The law of uncertainty rewards the mover, the learner, the person willing to hold questions longer than most. You do not need to see the entire staircase to take the next stair. Take it. Gather data. Adjust your footing. Repeat. One day you look up and realize the fog did not vanish. You just became fluent in it. That fluency is your unfair advantage. Not because you knew what would happen, but because you kept creating what could. A chair scrapes. The room of skeptics looks up, and one small story does what 20 neat slides could not. It makes everyone lean in. That's the quiet law behind persuasive stories. They do not arm wrestle someone into agreement. They guide them to recognize a piece of themselves. An agreement becomes a decision they feel, not just a point they concede. Here is how it shows up. Your teammate Maya is proposing a change nobody wants. Instead of beginning with charts, she starts with a person. "Picture Sam," she says, phone cradled to his ear, toddler on his hip, stuck on hold while our system chugs. He tries to do the right thing and we make it hard. The room can see Sam. They can feel that small daily friction. Then Maya turns the hinge. If we cut 3 minutes from that wait, Sam gets his evening back. Only after that does she share the numbers. Heads nod, not because the data is louder, but because the story made it matter. Why does that land? When someone feels seen and understood, defenses lower and collaboration rises. People are more cooperative when they feel heard. Psychologically, stories that mirror the listener's world create a sense of safety. I am not being pushed, I am being recognized. And there is another piece at work. Our brains tune out repeated, generic claims. It's called habituation. We stop reacting to what we have seen 1,000 times. Specific scenes, concrete moments, and lived detail cut through that fog and reawaken attention. The law of persuasive stories is not be dramatic. It is be human, then be clear. Not proof first, story second. Story first, then proof that the feeling is real. Not trying to win an argument. Inviting someone into a moment where the better choice is obvious. The conflict can be small. A customer on hold, a co-worker juggling deadlines, a student staring at a blank page. But there has to be a turn, a before and an after, so the mind can step across. Try it at home. You want your teenager to come home earlier? Skip the lecture about rules and start with their world. When you walk in late, you're missing the best part. That last 5 minutes on the couch where we laugh about nothing. I want that with you. When they can picture the gain, they are more likely to move toward it. Name a person. Show the friction. Turn the hinge. Then let your facts land in the space the story opened. That is the law of persuasive stories. Make it theirs, and it will move them. Nothing wakes the mind like a small shock of new. One different scent on your morning walk. One unfamiliar song through your headphones, and suddenly the world sharpens. That is the law of novelty. Change a small piece of the pattern, and attention rushes in. Your brain is built for this. It hunts for what it has not seen, not to distract you, but to mark what might matter next. Think about the last time you travelled to a different neighbourhood. The colour of the doorways, the rhythm of traffic, even the feel of the air seemed louder. That same intensity is available inside your ordinary day. You do not need a new city. You need a new cue. Monotony dulls perception. Novelty cracks the shell and lets fresh energy through. Here is the heart of it. Too little novelty and you fall asleep at the wheel. Too much novelty and you spin out. The sweet spot is tiny, intentional differences layered onto familiar structure. Keep the spine of the routine. Swap a rib. Keep the goal. Shift the pathway. Your brain says this is safe enough to explore, and then it brings dopamine, curiosity, and momentum to the table. If your work feels flat, change the scene where the first minutes happen. Stand instead of sit. Start with a voice note instead of a blank page. Rename the project with a verb that moves you. The task is the same, but your sense of it is refreshed. In conversations, ask one question you have never asked. People reveal new edges. In learning, switch the medium. Read out loud instead of scanning. Teach a friend instead of highlighting. Your understanding multiplies because your mind must reassemble the pieces. The law of novelty also protects joy. In relationships, preserve rituals but rotate the setting. Take the same evening walk and trade the route. Cook the same dish and change the spice. Familiarity gives safety. Novelty gives sparkle. You do not need grand gestures. You need tiny changes that renew attention. Set a simple rhythm. When a loop feels stale, introduce one fresh element, then let it stabilize. New mug for morning tea. Different playlist for deep work. A single plant on the desk. Adjust, notice, and keep what lifts you. When the lift fades, repeat. This is not a chase for constant stimulation. It is a craft of gentle disruption that keeps you awake to your life. Remember this line. Boredom is not a lack of options. It is a lack of novelty. Change a small thing, and the whole pattern brightens. Use that law with care, and the ordinary starts to glow again. The dice leave your fingers and you lean with them, as if your body tilt could bend physics. You jab the elevator button twice, then 3 times, convinced it will arrive faster. Your dashboard blooms with graphs, and you keep refreshing, hoping the refresh itself nudges the numbers. This is the grip of the illusion of control, a quiet law that humbles almost everyone. When outcomes are uncertain, we confuse touching things with steering them. The mind craves cause and effect, so it stitches patterns from noise. A basketball player taps a shoe 3 times and sinks a shot, and now the tap becomes sacred. A trader wins once while watching a particular stock ticker, and now watches it like a talisman. Meetings multiply, plans thicken, and anxiety masquerades as action. It feels like control. It is not. Maya learned this the hard way. Her team launched a product, and every morning she hunted the metrics, tweaking button colors, rewriting subject lines, making tiny changes that felt busy and brave. The chart barely budged. One afternoon, she drew 3 circles on a whiteboard. In the smallest, she wrote what she directly controlled, how many customer calls she made, how well she ran experiments, how quickly she shipped fixes. In the middle, what she could influence: partner enthusiasm, press interest, early user behavior. In the outer circle, what she must accept: macro trends, seasonality, luck. She started moving her energy inward. The calls uncovered a painful onboarding step. A sequence of small tests improved activation. Momentum followed, not because she pushed the elevator button harder, but because she finally touched the parts of the system that were hers to touch. The law is not telling you to be passive. It is asking for precision. Replace outcome promises with process promises. Instead of, "We will hit this number," say, "We will run this many real experiments, each with a clear hypothesis and a stop rule." Build pre-commitments that keep your future self honest. Checklists before big decisions, deadlines that trigger a default path, a kill criterion that ends a failing bet. When choices are equally good, flip a coin and spend your energy on execution. Tame the superstition loop by writing down what you believe will cause the effect, then testing that belief against evidence. Rituals still help as long as they govern you, not the world. Sleep on time. Train your attention. Budget your hours. These do not bend the wind. They set your sail. Control is never guaranteed, but clarity is. Let go of the lever that is not connected. Grip the one that is. When you honor that boundary, uncertainty does not vanish. It just becomes navigable. The room decided before anyone spoke. You could see it in the way people leaned their chairs, the nods that arrived a beat too soon, the careful silence around certain names. That is the law of tribal loyalty at work. When belonging is on the line, people will guard the story of the group before they guard the truth. You feel it at the office when a new hire questions the sacred spreadsheet. You feel it at the family table when an old rumour goes unchallenged. You see it online when a community piles on a stranger to prove it still recognises its own. This law is older than your job title and stronger than your clever argument. Tribes run on signals, the shared slang, the unspoken dress code, the agreed-upon heroes and villains. The price of admission is paid in small sacrifices that say, "I am with you." The reward is safety. The punishment for breaking ranks is isolation. So when facts collide with identity, identity wins. Not because people are foolish, but because people are fragile. The brain reads isolation as danger. It dials up fear and dials down curiosity. In that state, even generous people cling to the group narrative like a life raft. If you want to move people inside a tribe, pay the toll first. Pass the loyalty test before you propose the change. Learn their creation story. Use the names they use. Do visible favors that cost you time. Protect someone from embarrassment. Then, when you finally point to the elephant in the room, you are not an assailant, you are kin. Anchor your critique to the tribe's own values. Say we more than you. Instead of declaring, that tradition is wrong, try, that tradition once protected us, and now it is leaving our best people behind. Offer a small experiment that lets the group win without losing face. People are not allergic to new ideas, they are allergic to humiliation. The law has a dark edge. Sometimes a tribe demands silence about harm or loyalty to a lie. That is when you need a different kind of tribe, one built on principles sturdy enough to stand when the crowd shakes. Name your line. Refuse to dehumanize. Refuse to deceive. If you must leave, exit with respect. Keep bridges unburned. The story they tell about you tomorrow will be written by how you act today. This is not a trick. It is a grammar of human belonging. You can violate it, but like gravity, it will not negotiate. Step with it, and you can become a translator between worlds, the person who earns the right to say hard things and still gets invited to sit close. That is the quiet power of tribal loyalty. Not to trap you, but to teach you how to carry truth through the gates. A door only unlocks once you decide you are not going back. That is the quiet power behind the law of commitment. Until you cross that line, every option whispers at you. Every distraction looks reasonable, and your energy leaks in a dozen directions. But the second you commit, the world organizes. Time clears, courage shows up, and help appears where there was none. Think about the last time you were half in on something. You researched, you tinkered, you waited for the perfect moment. It felt safe, but it kept you stuck. Now remember the moment you finally said, I am doing this, not I will try, not I hope, I am. That single decision erased noise. You stopped hunting for new plans and started showing up for the one you picked. That is the law at work. Commitment is not a mood, it is a contract. When you sign it, you remove exits. You turn identity into action. I want to run becomes I am a runner, and your feet hit the pavement even when the sky is grey. I should write becomes I am a writer, and your hands touch the keys even when the words feel heavy. The switch is not dramatic, it is daily. You do the thing because that is who you are now. Here is how people make it real. They shrink the promise to something provable and repeatable, the smallest version they can keep on hard days. They anchor it to a time and a place, the same way the sun keeps its appointment with the morning. They remove friction the night before, lay out the clothes, stage the tools, clear the desk. They tell one person, the right person, and they put a small consequence on the line, just enough to sting if they bail. Then they protect the streak like it is sacred. You do not need grand gestures. You need one clean yes and 1,000 small yeses that follow it. Make your commitment visible. Put it on the calendar with your own name as the meeting. Invest something you would rather not lose. A little money, a little reputation, a promise to a friend. Each one is a brick in the bridge to the future you. There will be days when you want to renegotiate. Expect them. The law does not demand perfection. It demands return. Miss a day and come back the next one. Replace drama with repetition. Keep your word to yourself and watch your confidence compound. Choose now. Name the thing. Declare it out loud so your body can hear it. Set the smallest daily action, the time, and the place. Close the other tabs in your life. Step through the door and do not look back. The law of commitment will meet you on the other side. You can feel it in your bones the second you cross a finish line that almost broke you. Suddenly, that medal isn't just metal, it's proof, it's priceless, it's everything. That's the quiet pull of the law of effort justification. When you pay in sweat, your mind raises the price tag on whatever you bought. Here's what it looks like in real life. Your friend invites you to a club that requires a ridiculous tryout. You jump through hoops, stay up late, push harder than you planned. The meeting room has plain chairs and cheap snacks, but to you, it feels like an elite room. Someone asks, "Is this really worth it?" And you hear yourself say, "Absolutely." The truth is, the work you put in made it feel worth it. Psychologically, this is your brain protecting your story. If you endured something tough, it's painful to admit it was for something ordinary. So the mind closes that gap by upgrading the value. It's a classic move. Ease the inner conflict by polishing the prize. It shows up everywhere. You spend months building a piece of furniture, and now you believe it's perfect, even if one leg wobbles. You grind through a brutal job onboarding, and suddenly the company feels like the only place to be. You pour countless early mornings into a project, and you fall in love with the project more than the result. Effort becomes a spotlight, and whatever it shines on looks brighter. That spotlight can help. It pushes you to stick with hard things long enough to grow, to care about what you create, to respect commitments. But it can also blind you. It can keep you defending a bad fit, doubling down on a room you don't enjoy, staying on a path simply because it was hard to start. The law doesn't judge, it just runs quietly underneath. So what do? Keep your effort sacred, but separate it from the decision. Ask yourself, if this had been easy, would I still want it? Strip out the struggle and test the value on its own. Sleep on big choices, especially after a win that cost you a lot. Ask a friend who wasn't in the trenches what they see. Then name the real reward without mentioning how hard you worked, the skill you built, the connection you made, the clarity you gained. If those hold up, you're aligned. If they don't, honor the effort by letting it teach you, not trap you. The hard thing about hard things is how good they make everything around them look. That's the hidden twist. Let your effort make you proud, not blind. Keep the lesson, keep the growth, and choose what is truly valuable, even when the glow of what you earned tries to convince you otherwise. Tomorrow is built today, quietly, in the promises you signal and the cues you stage. That is the law of anticipation. People move toward the future they expect, and you get to choreograph that expectation. Think about the last time a message preview popped up on your phone. Before you even tapped it, your brain started filling in the story. Anticipation wrote a script, and you stepped into the next moment already primed. Brands do this. Leaders do this. Even your most persuasive friend does this. They do not force outcomes. They arrange them. The law of anticipation has 3 pillars. First, preloading. You plant a simple, vivid hint about what is coming, so attention leans forward. A chef posts a slow pour of sauce hours before the dinner rush. A teacher emails a one-line prompt that ends with an ellipsis. The future becomes a magnet. Second, pacing. You set a rhythm that people can feel, then you escalate it. A runner speeds up only after the crowd starts clapping in tempo. A storyteller pauses right before the twist, letting silence do the heavy lifting. The gap is not empty, it is charged. Third, proof. You make your next move predictable by being reliable today. When you show up on time, follow through and repeat it, you turn your name into a forecast. People relax into your promises because they have learned the pattern. To practice it, start small. Before a meeting, Send a 2-sentence note that invites curiosity and frames the goal, so everyone arrives already aligned. When launching a project, reveal the why first, then the how, then the when, in that order, so motivation arrives before logistics. If you create anything for others to experience, tease the texture, not the whole. Show the corner of the painting, not the gallery. Anticipation is not manipulation, it is stewardship of attention. You are removing friction and giving people a reason to care. That means you must earn it. Keep your word, over-communicate early. Leave a clean trail of what happens next, with time and place, and one clear action. If you break a promise, acknowledge it fast and reset the sequence. Trust is a delicate timer. Once it runs out, anticipation flips into doubt. Most people wait for momentum. The law of anticipation creates it. Be the person who says what is coming, when it is arriving and why it matters, then give a small, satisfying taste before the reveal. The mind loves a path. Draw it. The moment you do, you change the odds because energy flows where expectation points. Set the expectation and watch how many doors open before you even knock. Silence sells louder than shouting. In a world where every feed screams, the rarest sound is a pause that makes people lean in. That is the law of influence by scarce attention. When attention is the currency, influence belongs to whoever spends it wisely and makes others spend it deliberately. Think about the moments you remember. A street performer who freezes before the finale draws a crowd that inches closer. A speaker who lets a sentence hang in the air turns a room into a held breath. The power is not in more, it is in intentional less. Not all eyes are equal. The eyes that choose are worth more than the eyes that glance. Start by choosing one promise. One sentence people can repeat when you are not in the room. If everything is important, nothing is remembered. A sharp signal cuts through where a thick fog only blurs. Then compress your message until it feels almost too lean. Trim the clever line that amuses you but distracts them. Remove the extra proof that makes you feel safe but makes them feel tired. If a word does not earn its place, it leaves. Design your presence so it is findable, not constant. Show up in one place at set times so anticipation can form. The mind values what it waits for. The same story on every platform at every hour teaches people to scroll by. When you allow openings and closings, you teach people that your attention is a door, not a flood. Use pattern interrupts that respect intelligence. Begin with an image, a contradiction, a quiet claim that begs a why. Then let silence do its work. In audio, leave a beat. In visuals, leave space. In writing, let short lines land. Absence is not empty. It is a frame that makes the picture matter. Ask for only one action at a time. Many choices feel like work. One choice feels like momentum. Place social proof where friction peaks, not everywhere. A single well-placed signal of trust outperforms a wall of badges and noise. Save your strongest story for the moment of decision, not the opening. Because value felt last is value remembered first. Guard your own attention with the same ferocity. Curate your inputs until what you consume aligns with what you create. The quality of your output is a mirror of what you allow in. When your attention becomes precious to you, others learn to treat it as precious too. Influence is not a louder microphone, it is a narrower beam. Make your presence a clear signal, your cadence a rhythm people can expect, and your silence a promise that you will not waste a single second they give. When attention is scarce, the rarest thing wins. Be that. A quiet force runs through crowds like electricity, and once you learn to feel it, You stop wondering why some doors open for certain people and not for others. It is the law of social proof. When we do not know what to do, we look around. If everyone is walking toward one street vendor, that cart suddenly smells like certainty. Picture two restaurants on the same block. One is empty, spotless, and a little too quiet. The other is humming with conversation. You already know where your feet drift. It is not because you tasted the food. It is because other people tasted it for you. Psychologically, we borrow the group's confidence to reduce our risk. Following the crowd creates a sense of safety when our own signal feels faint. Here is what it looks like in real life. A friend invites you to a small event. You are not sure if it will be any good, but you scroll the page and see familiar names who already RSVP'd. Your hesitation melts. Or think about that moment in a meeting when one person nods, then another, and suddenly the room leans in. Momentum is visible. We read it like a headline, then act. That is social proof doing its quiet work. This is not about gullibility. It is about efficiency. Your brain is trying to make a smart bet with limited information. So it watches for people like you doing the thing you are considering and treats that as a shortcut. The closer the match, the stronger the pull. That is why testimonials from peers feel heavier than praise from strangers, and why a full tip jar by the register makes your hand more generous. So how do you use this law without being manipulative? Start by making the real signals easy to see. Let the first few supporters be visible. Invite the first follower, then spotlight them. Reference the genuine momentum that already exists. The early adopters, the small wins, the repeat customers. It is not about shouting louder. It is about making what is already true visible. If you lead a team, surface the norms you want repeated. Share a quick message like, "We tried this on a small project and it saved us time, and 3 people have already adopted it." If you are launching something, collect proof that feels relatable. Stories, names, tiny outcomes people can picture. If you are trying to change your own habits, stack your environment with cues that say, "People like me do this." Social proof is a mirror. Aim it at the behavior you want to grow. And be careful. Fake signals backfire. When people discover the applause was canned, trust evaporates. Use this law to amplify what is real, not to invent what is not. Once you notice social proof, you cannot unsee it. It is the current beneath the crowd, the whisper that becomes a wave. Learn to read it. Learn to show it. Learn to stand in it on purpose. Because when safety and clarity become visible, action follows. That is the quiet power of social proof. The price tag is rarely the price. There's the obvious cost you see today, and then there are the quiet fees that show up tomorrow, next week, or when you least expect them. The law of hidden costs is simple. Everything you choose charges you twice. Once in cash or convenience, and once in time, energy, attention, or trust. Miss the second bill and it will collect anyway. Here's what it looks like in real life. You grab the bargain flight. It leaves before sunrise and connects through 2 cities. You save a little money. The hidden bill, lost sleep, frantic transfers, a day and a half of fogginess. You skip your workout, snap at someone you care about, and the project you needed to focus on gets the leftovers. Or you say yes to a short meeting. It seems harmless. The fee is the switching cost. Your momentum shatters, and rebuilding that deep focus takes more time than the meeting itself. Or you pick the free software that does enough. The invoice arrives later, as hours wrestling with workarounds, teaching teammates and migrating when it breaks. Psychologically, we're wired to chase the visible win now and discount the invisible tab later. Our attention loves immediate relief, our optimism insists the detour will be quick, and our pride swears we can absorb the extra effort. That is how small choices quietly become expensive. So how do you honor the law of hidden costs without becoming rigid? Ask what it will cost in time, energy, and attention, not just in money. Ask what it will make harder later. Ask who will pay the fee with you, your future self, your team, your family. When you price those in, the cheap flight might no longer be cheap. The short meeting might move to a single message, and the free tool might become the right tool. A simple habit helps. When something seems like a deal, add the maintenance. When something seems fast, add the recovery. When something is free, add the learning curve. You are not being negative. You are tallying the real total, and sometimes you will still choose the early flight or the quick yes. That's fine. Only now it is a conscious trade, not a surprise charge. Notice what happens when you live this way. You start choosing fewer, better commitments. You stop underpricing your focus. You spend a little more on setup and save a lot on repair. The days feel steadier because the second bill is expected, budgeted, and absorbed. The law of hidden costs is not a punishment. It is a pair of glasses. Put them on and you see the true price of your choices. Put them on, and that small shift changes how you see the world. Glue on your decisions isn't logic, it's emotion. The moment you pour feelings into something, it starts to feel like part of you. That is the law of emotional investment. Whatever you feed with your time, your hope, and your pride becomes harder to release, even when it stops working. Think about the project you kept alive long after the spark died, just because you stayed up all those nights with it. Or the relationship you defended because you put so much into it. Or the brand you cling to because it was there when you felt unsure. The more a choice carries your story, the more that choice controls your future. Here is the trap. Emotion makes effort feel sacred. We tell ourselves, I can't walk away now, not after all of this. So we throw good time after bad time, good energy after old dreams, and we call it loyalty. But loyalty without results is just a slow leak. The law does not punish you. It simply compounds what you invest. Pour emotion into progress and you rise. Pour emotion into a dead end and you sink. So how do you work with this law instead of against it? Start by separating identity from outcome. You are not your job, your idea, your plan. If it fails, you do not. Next, decide your exit rules while you are calm. Choose the signs that mean stop before you get attached. When feelings surge, follow the rule, not the mood. Give yourself a cool down. Sleep on big decisions. Emotions spike and crash. Wisdom sits and waits. Change the question you ask. Instead of, how do I make this work? Ask, what reality is this showing me? Reality is not rude. It is information. If the results are not moving, do not raise your voice. Raise your standards. Shift from proving yourself to improving your position. Try a small, low-emotion test before a big, high-emotion leap. Let data hire your courage. One more move. Reassign your emotion. You can feel deeply about the mission without worshipping a single method. Love the destination more than the vehicle. If the car breaks, you get out and keep walking. Pride can travel with you. It does not need to live in an old plan. You will know the law of emotional investment is on your side when letting go feels like respect, not failure. When you can say, I learned, I grew, and now I choose. That is maturity, That is freedom. Put your heart into what earns it. Keep your hands open for what changes. And remember this simple promise. Where your emotion goes, your life follows. Choose that direction on purpose. The room feels brighter, your palms feel louder, and your mind whispers that every eye is locked on you. That story is powerful, but it is mostly fiction. The law of the spotlight effect says we wildly overestimate how much other people notice us. It is not arrogance, it is survival software. Your brain is trying to keep you safe, so it scans for social threats and blows them up like a magnifying glass in the sun. Think about the coffee stain you swore the whole office could see. You walked in, chest tight, over-explaining a tiny mark no one was looking for. Or the moment you mispronounced a word and replayed it 100 times while everyone else replayed their own moments. The truth is simple. Most people are watching the movie of their own life, and you only cameo in a few scenes. Here is how to use that law. First, name it so you can tame it. When your mind says they are all staring, answer with a calm, maybe, but probably not. That gentle doubt loosens the grip. Second, flip the spotlight. Instead of asking, how am I doing, ask, what do they need? When you put your attention on service, your nervous system gets a job other than protecting your ego. Third, run the 2-day test. If it will not matter in 2 days, it does not deserve 2 minutes of panic. That tiny delay resets your perspective. Fourth, do the curiosity check. Ask a trusted friend what they noticed about your moment. 9 times out of 10, they remember your point, not your stumble. Finally, collect counter-evidence. Keep a short list of wins where you took a risk and nothing bad happened. Your brain respects receipts. You can also practice exposure in small doses. Wear the slightly bold shirt. Raise your hand with a half-formed thought. Share a draft that is not perfect. Each tiny rep teaches your body that discomfort is not danger. Oddly, the more you allow small embarrassments, the less they cling to you. You stop bracing for impact and start moving through it. If you want a quick reality check, try this today. Walk into a room, pause, and silently guess who noticed your hair, your shoes, or the little mistake you made last week. Later, ask a friend what stood out. You will hear about your energy, your idea, your kindness. The rest rarely registers. The law of the spotlight effect is not an order, it is a bias. When you respect it, you stop performing and start participating. You say the thing, you take the seat, you make the ask. The light is not on you, it is around you. Step forward anyway and let it help you see.